on stream and see
Already on it.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'm immediately greeted by my terrible voice.
Dun dun dun.
Terrible voice.
All right. Sound levels do look fine in Discord as well.
Looks good. Or sounds good on my end.
All right. Yeah. There's two different pickups, basically. It's all of you guys and me, and those should be the only two audio channels. So if you, so everyone should be good. All right. At some point, we'll actually do the intro.
Yeah, once we're satisfied that things are working.
Yep. This looks so great on YouTube, but we're too lazy to edit this.
I mean, it's fine.
Well, I'm warning you now. I've already stated that we're live.
All right.
Okay. I don't think it's going to change anything, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, it's working out all right.
You want me to take care of the intro?
No, I got it. Just as soon as I'm done eating bread.
Delicious bread.
Mm. How much of your carrying capacity does that bread take up?
More than it should. We'll get to carrying capacity, which will be soon anyways, but...
What's the prestige class that allows you to use bread making as your default for all roles and abilities?
I
That's
would
not
like
in the
to
player's
say
handbook.
I would like to say none, but I cannot be sure of that.
I say this is player's handbook. I haven't gone that off the rails yet.
No and yes at the same time.
I'm also pretty sure there's no prestige classes in the PHP.
Any case, people who've been listening to our banter for a while, welcome to that experimental series that I like to call D&D in Hindsight, because it sounds good in my head. Basically where we go back and look at old RPG books with our modern experience, because we played a lot of 3.5 and its spiritual successor Pathfinder First Edition. But it's also been like, this was released in 2003 and it is currently 2025, so 22 years since it came out. And since that time, we've also played non-D&D RPGs, as well as a bit of 4th and a bit of 5th edition. So we have a lot more knowledge, not just about role-playing in general, but all other types of role-playing games, systems, etc. And I think it would be actually fun to look through this book and basically analyze it. / just banter about it, really. In other words, it's an excuse to talk with my friends. As much as anything else. But yeah. So, starting with the basics, for people who have been in a cave for the last, 30 plus years and have somehow figured out how to get on the internet and Twitch, RPG stands for role-playing game, which is two distinctly different things. There's the role-playing part, and then the game part. Roleplay doesn't actually really require a system, per se, of any sort. It doesn't require dice, it doesn't require rules, it requires you to act as a character.
Vince. Are we going to do intros?
Oh, yes, we should probably do intros. So, in any case, I'm Vincent.
I'm a LARPer who's wandered in and who's sticking to the name Omega Darkcat until someone proves I can trust them.
I'm playing the character of Shiv.
Where's the Mountain Dew?
In the fridge!
Oh, I'm Hunter Green. I didn't get a Mountain Dew. Anyone want anything?
You got some Cheetos? And I'm Vincent. So you see, that's an example of roleplay. And if you get
roleplay, nothing. I'm going to go get the Mountain Dew from the fridge.
Also, if you get that reference, you probably already feel old.
Yeah.
Satan's game. Yeah.
But yeah,
I bet more people have.
Oh, go ahead.
I bet more people have heard that skit than know the incredibly obscure area that it's from.
Yeah.
Probably. Especially since I don't think I know the obscure area it's from.
It's from a game called Summoner for the PS2. It was a secret cutscene.
Oh, okay, yeah. I
After
remember
the
that
credits, where the characters from the game are playing D&D and screaming at each other over the table.
But yeah, getting back to what I was saying.
I'm going to be fact checking that because I know that from a different source.
The internet.
A group called the Dead Alewives.
Yeah. I do think I remember that actually being in Summoner.
It might be that it was in Summoner after the Dead Alewives created.
Yeah.
That's more likely.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have, much like a real game of D&D that we've played, I've tangented enough.
Right, so anyway.
DM, get the thing back on track.
Yeah. So, in any case, the actual rules that you adopt for the game, or what rule system you actually use for whatever role-playing game, kind of depends on you. D&D being the most popular one because it came out first. Really, that's pretty much the extent of it. There's other reasons as well. Fantasy is a fairly popular genre, but when I say fantasy, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And to some extent, I think the actual advantage that D&D generally has is it's not really built around one specific concept or another so much as kind of adaptable even within each of the players in a single campaign, which is the best I can say about it, I guess. It takes a weird middle road, which, while not satisfying for a group that's trying to do one specific thing, is more satisfying for a group that's trying to do various different things. If everyone wants to play a campaign around musical singing, it's not going to be the best. It's not going to be the best system for that per se. But if one person wants to bash things while another plays a bard and another plays like a wizard or something, I don't know. The system is built pretty well for that, I guess, would be the best way of putting it. And yeah,
It does the basic role of letting you play characters satisfactorily.
yes. Ultimately, what it comes down to, and what you prefer for a role-playing game, is whatever you have fun doing with your friends, as that's really the entire goal here.
Yeah. If you aren't having fun with the game, you probably figure something else to do.
Yeah.
I just noticed one of the tags you put there is literally one of the tags I was going to state, which is I'm here for the math.
Yes, one of the two main features of this edition. We'll get into that in a minute.
Also, having looked it up, so it was a Dead Alewives comedy skit that came out in 1996. The game Summoner used it as a skit to test some of their animations at the end of it.
Ah. That makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, in general, there's various different styles of role-playing games. And this is one of them. This one had a giant ass impact on the industry, however, for several reasons. Not the least of which is, they kind of made it so anyone could use these rules when publishing their own stuff to make money off of. And they did.
Yeah, this established the D20 rule set.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
It became so ubiquitous.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that it became so ubiquitous that for the majority of time that I was growing up, it was just this is the D&D version of blank. There were other things that used the D20 system. There were even other like whole companies that revolved their stuff around the D20 stuff. But it was always compared to D&D because this was the yard. This wasn't just the yardstick that was used to measure RPGs. It's defined the measurement system.
Yeah.
Yep.
And quite frankly, in comparison to what came before it, I do think it actually did a lot of positive things. For example, we stopped having the weird ass acronym THACO, but that's a minor thing comparatively.
Nothing wrong with THACO.
There's not much wrong with THACO. I mean, if your option is THACO and not THACO is objectively better, but it's not like odious and vile. It's not saves. It's saves in previous editions or yeah.
Like, THACO obviously makes itself more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah. But in any case, as you can see, this rulebook says it is Core Rulebook 1 version 3.5. It is notable in the sense that this is the only edition of D&D that actually has a version number. No other D&D edition before or since has actually put an accurate version number of any sort. Technically, there is a D&D second edition.
Which is mildly annoying, because right now there is D&D 5th edition and D&D 5th edition 2024.
Yeah.
Yep.
What complicates this further is D&D 3rd edition is somewhere between the 4th or 9th edition of D&D, if you actually count the edition, so this isn't even accurate.
Final Fantasy rules.
Yeah, it's like Microsoft Windows.
Yeah. In case,
Oh my god.
yeah.
How dare.
3rd edition of D&D is actually Wizards of the Coast's first attempt at making D&D after getting it from TSR. They tried the radical new method of not doing tons of cocaine while writing their rules. This did tend to work out in certain ways. At the very least, I can find all of their rules in like 2 books, so that helps. And they stuck generally to the same systems for everything, as opposed to just inventing something on the fly, sometimes for the same system in 2 different ways, or for the same thing in 2 different ways in 2 different books. Old editions of D&D are weird. There are much better places to actually learn about it. One channel I've been like binge consuming for that actually is Daddy Rolled a 1, which I actually want to just shout out because it's given me a decent amount of like surface level knowledge of previous editions.
Nice.
Let's see. But yes, this book was released, by the way, in July of 2003. And let's get on to the random stuff I've taken snippets of. Yep, general introduction. Trying to explain to people what a role-playing game is and how to play it. In the modern era, I would just point you to the internet and videos, and they would do a much better job of tutorializing. But this is back in the magical land of 2003, where that's not really a thing. So they have to try and put this in text, and quite frankly, I don't know if anyone's done a great job of could even do a great job of doing that completely. Trying to explain a role-playing game to someone who is unfamiliar with it in its entirety in text is a task.
Yeah, I mean, it worked well enough.
It did.
I mean,
go ahead.
okay.
That was the end of my comment.
Oh, okay. All right. I was gonna say there are a number of ever since then on itch.io. There's not only video games, but there's also like pen and paper role playing games that are released there, and people have done a good job of like condensing what is a role playing game down into like 1, maybe 1.5 pages. But I do think some of that heavy lifting is because pen and paper RPGs have at least come into the mainstream in this time period compared to when this book was released.
Yeah.
Yeah, the likelihood of your player base having knowledge of, or at least having either played or have knowledge of pen and paper RPGs is much higher now than it was 20 years ago.
Okay, and from what I remember, I'm going to need to immediately zoom out. Yep, okay.
Nope, zoom in.
Okay, so the PDF program that I used to take the pictures on this scales the resolution based on how much I've zoomed into the PDF. For some reason. And it defaults to 84% whenever I jump from page to page. This will get corrected soon, but there were some of the earlier pictures that are a little bit too low in resolution for what they are. Any case, one of the things I want to highlight is here's what you need to play. This edition was actually built for a battle grid. Interestingly
yeah.
enough, also is very reliant on pencils, scrap paper, and graph paper.
I mean, realistically, the core of D&D has always been a tabletop battle game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Considering its origins was a tabletop battle game.
Yeah. A tabletop battle game, and then it's like, hey, what if everyone ran like one guy? And then it kind of ran from there.
Yeah. Like
okay,
combat and everything throughout the entirety of D&D has, while you can definitely play D&D without an actual battle grid and all that kind of stuff, it has definitely always been designed around it.
Yeah. It also had influences from, I think it was Bromstein and Blackmore were other things that influenced the eventual design of what became D&D, which are their own things. They're not quite role-playing games, but there is role-playing involved in them. They're kind of neat little interesting things, but that's more of a side tangent.
Uh-huh.
But yes, also evocative of the age is the just general lack of anything digital, because that wouldn't really have been a resource in 2003.
Yeah.
I have plenty of old character sheets to attest to that.
I have old character sheets. I have these physical books.
Yeah. Physical books was something they could actually sell back in 2003 as well, as opposed to hopefully somebody bought one copy of this book and everyone is using PDFs.
Yeah. We played this stuff when it was coming out, so
yeah.
Yep.
It was not uncommon to go to the local game store and go, oh hey, there's a new D&D book out. Is this one interesting? Do someone have something they want in it so we can buy it?
Yeah. We had several copies of the player's handbook itself, and I think DM's guide.
Yep.
And generally one copy of practically every book between the group. Let's see. And back to yes, innovate. So this is actually some of the first innovations here. The universal task resolution. This wasn't really a thing in previous editions of D&D. As a matter of fact, the D20 was only ever used for combat. Other stuff would be whatever the author decided would be the system for this. But instead, in this edition, they've actually streamlined things to roll a D20, add stuff, and if high enough number, succeed. For skill checks, it's whatever the DM sets as the difficulty, but there's actual guidelines for what difficulties are. And difficulties in this edition do not scale with level for some fucking or anything stupid like that. Let's see.
Now, difficulty scale roughly with the challenge of the thing you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Irrespective of what you are.
We're not adding level to both the difficulty and your roll, which is what the fuck's the point of this?
We want the numbers to go higher, but we also want that increase to be pointless.
If we get to future books, I'll make fun of it on the spot, but any case, moving on. But yeah, this is a really sound idea that kind of gets squashed by the other primary feature of this edition to some extent, which is math. Bonuses add up a lot in this edition.
I would say it's a problem that got more and more out of hand as the edition.
That's true too, but the other thing I like to point out is a D20 is a really good die to use for checks in general. Mainly because the math on it is very good, and basically
everything is a 5% jump.
Yeah, everything is a 5% jump, which is about as much as you need when it comes to incrementing stuff. It's like, you could use a D100 and everything is a 1% jump, but what the fuck is the point in that?
At some point, it'll stop rolling.
Yeah. There's also other systems you can use, which are 2d6 or 3d6 for task resolution that other games have used, which works okay enough, but not for the reasons people think it works. A lot of them are like, it has a bell curve. Okay, a bell curve is not actually a reason to use 2d6 or 3d6, man. Hypothetically, it has even distribution, but let's say you wanted everything to succeed in the game on like a 7+ as your average. That is literally the equivalent of just nearly the equivalent of needing an 8+ on a d20.
Yep.
You'll get the exact same like odds and distribution from that. The only reasons to there are several other reasons to actually use like 2d6 or 3d6 or whatever, but you can duplicate the odds of success one way or the other. The real reasons are if you want like bonuses to have basically diminishing returns or the inverse. Like the bonuses are better the worse a chance you have to succeed on a d20, whereas the bonuses are completely flat on multiple dice, whereas the bonuses are completely flat on a d20.
On D20. And every 1 point is a 5% D20, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Whereas a 2d6 getting a 7 system that adds +1 is different math depending what your pluses and minuses are not the same on every single step in that system.
Also, game designers, if you remember that you're designing a game and actually want to do things that could actually be fun for your players, when you're using multiple dice, like 2d6 or 3d6, you could do radical things like have players able to, I don't know, say, boost an attempt to go from 2d6 to 3d6, or roll 3d6 and drop the lowest as like a special ability, or other fun shit like that. I will give you this one for free, and I certainly didn't steal it from War Machine, which was one of the funnest parts of that system.
This is War Machine. War Machine system is perfectly good.
Yeah. But yeah.
Both as a war game and presumably the RPG, which I assume used the exact same system.
I'm not sure about the actual RPG they designed, but almost certainly. Like, if they didn't, I will have to figure out who the designer is.
Or their board game they did, which uses the same system.
Their board game, which absolutely uses the same system. Also of note in this edition is skills, which in the previous edition were called non-weapon proficiencies, and I wish I was making that up. There's a few things notable about skills that I actually do think they did right. There's an actual chapter for it anyways, but...
But if I use cooking for combat, does it make it a weapon skill, not a non-weapon skill?
No. No. Non-weapon proficiency. We had to use as many syllables as possible.
but if I use my non-weapon proficiency skill of baking to make a bread lista, a bread ballista, is it still a non-weapon skill? Or
Yes.
non-weapon proficiency?
It is still a non-weapon proficiency.
Yes, because you're still attacking with your attack roll. You're still rolling a d20 and comparing it to your THACO.
Fair.
And that's wacko.
Oh, yes. One other thing. A very common house rule, which you will not see in skill checks, but will see in attack rolls, is a natural 1 fails and a natural 20 succeeds. That's only actually on attack rolls. That is a house roll. And this annoys the crap out of me in particular for some reason. Mostly because I like to actually get good enough at a skill to not fail.
No, always a 5% chance you kill yourself or harm yourself doing anything.
5% chance I fail to tie my shoelaces. I always hate that. One every 20 times I tie my shoelaces, I fail to tie my shoelaces.
Well, only if your DM makes you do a shoe tying check.
Fate is sinister, and aglets are forever. The question.
Okay. So on chapter 1, anyways. All right, so chapter 1, abilities, and this is where the balance of the game starts to die. This is also where we see the other primary feature of this edition: trap options.
Yeah.
So we can actually see. Yeah, we can actually see it under ability scores on this page. This is the only roles in this edition for rolling ability scores in the player's handbook. That's kind of deceptive. The DM's guide is kind of Player's Handbook Part 2, the stuff we couldn't fit in the Player's Handbook in a lot of space, in a lot of sections. But in any case, the default method for rolling ability scores in this edition is 4d6, drop the lowest, roll this 6 times, and place your scores wherever you want.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this is a technology that we've kind of evolved, or this is something that we've kind of evolved past as far as RPGs are concerned.
I mean, even this very system eventually did. Hey, how point buy can be a thing.
Yeah, technically point buy is in the DM's guide. They've revised it a lot since then, but it's fairly solid from there. And yeah, in any case, these abilities that you generated are then compared on this very handy. Let me zoom out. This very handy table where you get to see the bonus and why the fuck are we just generating the bonus? That'd be the other question, but that's a different matter entirely.
Because they need to know how far you are from 0, which is an actual penalty.
Yes, I know. When your ability score hits 0
because you need a buffer room to not instantly die.
Yeah, because ability damage is a thing in this edition, which is another matter. So yes, as you can see, average of 10 is a 0, or plus 6 if we want to be realistic, because we decided to go into negatives. You could just have started at 1 as a 0 and gone up, but ignoring that for the moment.
Hey, look, we're already doing enough math. We don't need to start at a plus 6.
Yeah, I know. 10 is going to be your average, so at least it averages out. Although, honestly, if you're making a d20 roll and you don't have some sort of bonus to it, you're in a desperate situation, or you're trying random crap.
Yep.
Also of note on this table is bonus spells, which is probably one of the several bad ideas that they had. The higher bonus you get, the more spells you get of each spell level. This leaves spellcasters with precisely all of the fucking spell slots to cast everything they goddamn want after a certain point in time, especially since in this edition, it's not uncommon for your stats to just kind of keep growing. The actual growth from level to level isn't as high, but you're eventually going to get like a +6 magic item, and very eventually like another +5 from reading a book for like a week. I don't know.
The ultimate goal for a player character is to hit somewhere in that 32 to 36 range.
Yeah.
There are higher stats on there that aren't really achievable by actual players, but can't show on monsters and stuff.
Yeah. And that's also kind of one of its larger flaws, since 5th edition having bounded accuracy was such a great innovation, partially because of the math of the system really is rigged around you doing that. If you're trying to fight something at a appropriate level and you have not rigged all of your pluses, you, depending on how high level you are, it goes somewhere between okay, your odds are really bad to your odds are near fucking impossible. The game, to some extent, actually assumes that you're doing some amount of min-maxing. And the higher level you get, the more it's kind of assuming of you.
Interesting.
But the game gives you tons of options to min-max. The game also throws, as the game goes on, it gives you plenty of ways to min-max and different bonuses to add and everything else to get your numbers pumped up to insane levels. It also, at the same time, gives you plenty of options that are complete garbage. Will absolutely not help you do this in any way, shape, or form.
You won't get to the Feats section soon. Soonish, anyways. Yeah. These stats also determine spell DCs to some extent, as does the level you cast, but we'll get that in the casting system. And yeah, in general, they also determine other things. And not all stats are created equal. Going over them in order. First, we'll start with strength, which is either important or a dump stat. But yeah, strength is used for melee attacks, all damage rolls, unless it doesn't have one. Like bows, unless they were a specific type of bows, wouldn't actually add strength to their damage.
But you will take a strength penalty.
Yes, they will take a strength penalty. It is used for climb, jump, and swim, because we need to get overly granular for skills, but we'll go to that later. And apparently strength checks, because, you know, that
All stat checks are led to their stat. As far as stat checks go, strength is probably the most likely actual stat check to show up. But even then, straight stat checks were not common.
No. It was dependent on the DM, but generally it's not much of what you do. Another thing that strength determined that was really important, and by really important, mostly ignored, is carrying capacity.
Depends how much your DM wants you to care about carrying capacity.
How much your DM wants... Carrying capacity, I actually always see as a cudgel to use against the player who's trying to fucking carry too much shit, obviously. It's like, no, you cannot carry 14 weapons and a grand piano on your back. Stop it.
I have the strength for it.
Higher level characters might actually.
Also, it's worth noting, as you can see here, carrying capacity, which they put next to strength because it's relevant here.
No, I put it next to strength. It's actually on like page 160 something.
Oh, right, because table 9 is the main chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the carrying capacity, you also see carrying loads. Not only is there a capacity of what you can carry, there are also 3 levels of penalties depending on what you're carrying.
Yep. Light load, no penalty. Medium load, screw you. Heavy load, why are you doing this to yourself?
As you can see, the carrying loads there. Medium load caps out your dex to AC as a plus 3. Gives you a -3 at any checks that care about stuff like that. Lowers your speed and lowers when you do a run action, which normally multiplies your movement, limits how far you move. Heavy load limits your max dex to 1, gives you an even bigger penalty to stuff, still slows you down, and then removes a multiplier for your speed.
Yeah. Run, a thing that has actually disappeared from newer editions, although I actually like it, but it doesn't really work within the systems they've currently designed.
No, I mean, run. There's nothing wrong with run.
Yeah.
Run was all I'm going to do this turn is move, get a bunch of vector.
Yeah. But yeah. Strength as a stat you can actually dump sometimes, but that's only if you're like basically never making a melee attack. Anyone who actually wanted to fight in melee cannot dump strength, even if
you can.
You can. It's just not a good idea. There are dexterity weapons. The problem, or there are finesse weapons, but the problem with the finesse weapons is you're still adding strength to damage.
You're still adding strength. Well, so at low levels, it hurts more to dump strength.
Yeah.
If you're doing melee combat, at a certain point, you can throw so many bonuses and stuff on your weapon that slight loss you're getting for not having strength doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you put a 3 in the stat, you will feel it for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
You'll also be able to carry 10 pounds.
You will feel for a while, and if anything does strength damage to you, you're just gonna get ruined.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to
like Ray of Weakness. It's like a level 1 spell.
Moving on to dexterity, the god stat, most of the time.
Yes.
As we've gone over, rage attacks, also attacks with finesse weapons, also adds a bonus to your AC, also adds a bonus to your reflex saves, also determines your initiative, and like a good chunk of the skills.
Majority of the quote-unquote physical-based skills.
Yeah, of the physical-based skills are dexterity. This is the only stat that's actually been powered up in 5th edition. Strangely enough. And is actually less balanced.
The rich get richer?
No, this is less balanced in this edition, strangely enough. Yeah, in 5th edition, dexterity can completely replace strength, but those are on weapons that are inherently slightly weaker. It is kind of true in this edition too. It's just it matters a lot less if the weapon is weaker for pretty much the same reasons that Shiv said when it comes to like why strength is.
When you can throw a +5 bonus and then 5 extra d6 on a weapon casually.
Yeah.
Who cares if you do 4 less flat?
Fair.
Hitting is the more important part of the number part of it.
Yeah. Whereas
or the math part of this game.
Yeah. Whereas in 5th edition, the flat always matters. Especially since multiplying your attacks is basically something that happens at higher levels with the exception of like rogue.
Yeah. And you're in 5th edition, since everything's more hitting is the more important part of third edition to make sure you can actually get damage in at all when the numbers start skyrocketing.
Yeah.
So losing a bit of hit for a little bit of damage is a bad idea. And realistically, because ACs don't scale into absurd amounts to just not be able to hit by everything, you can afford to not do dex and do strength instead on a melee character, and just wear heavy armor, because the difference between a heavy armor wearing character in fifth ed is not really all that different from a light armor wearing character with a high dex.
Yeah.
As opposed to a heavy armor character with no dex in 45 is relying on throwing as many bonuses on his armor as he can get, except the character who's using dex can also just wear light armor, throw all the same bonuses on their armor, then have 13 extra AC from dexterity alone.
Yeah. Basically,
it's not comparable.
Yeah. Basically, dexterity is not really anywhere near as easily dumped in this edition as it is in 5th.
And the bulk of spells we're going to deal with are going to be reflex saving throws.
Yeah. That's kind of true in 5th edition as well, because the bulk of spells were designed in previous editions of D&D.
They are, but your saves aren't getting to the extreme levels they do in the math game of 3.5.
Yeah.
So dumping dex in 3.5 is you're never passing a reflex save ever. Whereas dumping dex or not having like a 10 in dex in 5th edition is you still have a decent chance to pass any save, because they're never getting DC 45s.
Yeah.
Your number, because of the bounded accuracy, your numbers never get to the point where dumping a stat just automatically makes you fail.
Yeah. Also, the positive is failing a dex save in either edition is generally you take more damage.
Yeah, dex spells are always going to be damage.
Yeah.
For the most part. Not always, like entangle roots you and all sorts of stuff, but the majority of the effects that are attached to dex are damage.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to
or instant death for a dragon in 3.5. We'll get to that when we get Spell Compendium.
Yeah, we will. Right, moving on to the next stat that, oh god, don't jump this, is Constitution, which lives in its own very odd space. Yeah. So Constitution modifiers added to every single hit die. As extra hit points.
Whether it's a bonus or penalty.
Whether it's a bonus or penalty. Although you always at least get 1 hit point, so I guess that's a positive. Adds to fortitude saving throws. Generally, failing a fortitude save is bad. Very bad, but not...
Typically.
Yeah.
Not a lot of things made you do fortitude saves, but they were never great effects if you failed them.
Yeah. And adds to concentration in checks. This means that con is good for everyone. Like, absolutely everyone. It's good for spellcasters because it's more survivability. Okay, it's good for everyone because it's good, more survivability. More hit points is never bad. It adds to one of the saves you really don't want to fail. Like, actually having a lower dex save is less consequential than having a lower fortitude save, quite frankly.
If you have enough health to soak whatever the failed reflex save is going to be, you're better off making sure you can pass the fortitude save than the reflex.
Yeah. On the flip side, it's also never a primary stat because no one uses it for anything. It is almost completely passive.
Yes, it is not. There's not ever anything else that is based off con. Although they did do that one time in Pathfinder, then they changed it because they're cowards.
Absolute cowards. But yeah. Didn't realize exactly how much this kind of breaks it already. Okay, that's just...
It was a witch. Who cares?
That's true.
It was a witch subclass that was only available to orcs.
Was it orcs or half orcs?
Half orcs could get it because they were orcs.
No,
but
that's right.
It was exclusively usable by one player race. And it was a version of witch that used con as a casting stat rather than intelligence. Speaking
of intelligence.
Intelligence. Oh, the other important thing about Constitution while we're here is that it goes into taking damage. When you get to 0 hit points, you don't die. You fall on when you get to 0 hit points, you're still up. When you get to negative hit points, you don't die. But you have a buffer before you actually die of negative hit points equal to your con?
No. That's a Pathfinder change.
Was that Pathfinder? Oh, it's Pathfinder.
Yeah, that's Pathfinder. It is negative 10.
Just negative 10?
Yeah, it's
like flat 10.
10. Yeah. It's
that's right. 10. Pathfinder made it con to give you a bigger buffer.
Yeah. They also got rid of massive damage, which doesn't matter because everyone else got rid of massive damage before they did.
Anyways.
Yeah. It's like no one wanted to play with that. All right. So intelligence determines the number of extra languages you know, which has an effect on games randomly. Quite literally randomly. You almost never know what you're actually encountering, or if you do, you took that language already.
Yep.
Increases the number of skills you get each level, which is a thing. Affects pretty much all the intelligence skills, including knowledge. But knowledge is a bunch of subcategory
Knowledge
skills.
is like 12 skills.
Spellcraft, so you can know what horrible spell is being cast upon you by the DM. Is the primary casting stat for wizards. Yeah, it's really hard to say what you should ever put into intelligence. That's the honest way of putting it.
Well, if you're a wizard, everything.
Yeah, if you're a wizard, obviously everything. For non-wizards, it's like you can dump this, but you're depending on the class, you may feel even more useless out of combat.
Are you a fighter who only gets like 2 skills anyway?
Yeah.
Are you a barbarian? Put this fucker at a 3.
No, because you're.
Do you want to do nothing that isn't combat?
Yeah. You see, with skills, you can feel occasionally useful out of combat.
If you're a barbarian, you are using no int skill whatsoever.
No, but it determines how many skills you
No,
get.
no, surge. Yeah.
Yeah. There are skills other than int as well. Do you want to be able to jump, climb, or swim? That's the other question.
You can do that on your base stat. You're good.
Not as much as you think.
Not as much as you
Oh,
think.
I know.
But yeah, it's like you can't. It's like this stat is not something you obviously want unless you're a wizard or someone who casts off of it effectively. But at the same time, like W takes a lot of the like what I can do out of combat out of the game, so it's like kind of painful to dump. Not as painful as wisdom. Do not dump wisdom, for the love of God.
Oh my God.
Wisdom.
But the only reason you can't dump wisdom is because it has one of the 3 saves attached to it.
It has one of the
The
three
save
saves attached
that
to
is,
it.
you are no longer in the fight.
Yeah, fortitude is a bad save to fail. Will is a save you never want to fail.
Look, sometimes I need to go use the bathroom and want the DM to control my character, okay?
That is entirely what it does, by the way. There's not really much else. It has... Okay, that's not true. It also has the best skills in the game attached to it.
Sense motive.
Yeah, spot, listen, which in later editions gets combined into the most powerful skill in the game.
Yep. I'd forgotten that was split like that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They eventually switched that into perception. But currently in this edition, it's 2 separate skills.
Yeah, there's a lot of skill bloat in this edition. It's a lot of skill bloat with Pathfinder first edition, honestly, but that's a different matter entirely.
Also, the casting stat for the wisdom casters.
Yeah. Charisma, purposely designed to be dumped.
Are you a sorcerer or a bard?
Or paladin?
No. Okay, this scored even that. It didn't fucking.
Oh yeah, no, it got added to smite, I think. I will go over it later.
No, it just got added to their saves, if I remember correctly.
It did get added to their saves.
They did add to their save.
Yeah. It's like, charisma was absolutely not something you wanted to dump as a paladin, but...
No.
Like, you throw 10 in it.
Yeah.
It's not your primary.
It's not your primary, but it was actually useful for paladin. For everyone else, you see these like social skills it adds to. Yeah, that's what it does.
You know who's going to have those social skills? The bard. The character who puts points in charisma.
Yeah. You could try to run a charismatic rogue. You're already decapping yourself by
I mean, the rogue at least has the skills to take these if they want them. They're just probably not going to put points into charisma to go along with it.
No. Which is inherently the problem with the entire affair.
Now, this does bring into mind one of the things that really defined 3.5, or one of the things that 3.5 tends to be infamous for. So these stats are meant to be a reflection of your character.
Uh-huh.
And they're meant to define like what your character is like. From a role-playing standpoint, you can absolutely have the person who's dedicated to just, playing the character that they've designed. They're not necessarily the best at anything. They haven't really touched the number side of things, or if they have, they've only given a cursory glance to it. But they could be playing the dumb barbarian who, tanks their int stat because Grug hit good, Grug not need no funny number math. But the thing that really stands out about 3.5, and kind of its defining characteristic for good and for ill, is that there are so many interlocking pieces and so many clear good options, and as we've mentioned previous times, trap options, that really people focused on making the build first and then kind of crowbar in what their character is like.
Well,
This
that's more future 3.5.
Yeah, it still it plays an effect here. It is actually kind of where I have a general dislike of, well, actually stat systems in general, and I almost never see stats as defining my character, in spite the fact that it is literally like, here's their strength, here's their intelligence, because they are so mechanically in tune with what you're trying to do that it kind of like hamstrings your ability to make the character function if you don't just treat stats as what they kind of are, which is just part of the character, or just part of the build of the character to make it work.
Yeah, because if you want I grug, I no need thinking numbers, I hit things. You can do that without actively hamstringing your character stat wise.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could,
and especially
you can still basically have a 10 strength and be iGrug. And just like what your skills you pick really would determine that. Is like, if I just pick up all the physical skills, it's like, okay, that doesn't matter. I have like balance and like swim, climb, and
jump.
And jump.
Yeah. But you are correct, and to be fair, this is not a problem that, like, when this book and the Dungeon Master's Guide came out, because I think they came out close to each other. Vince,
They came out at the same time. They all came out at the same time.
Yeah, the three base books came out at the same time.
When the Monster Manual, the Player's Handbook, and the Dungeon Master's Guide came out, this was not as big of a problem. The system was there, the system was new, it did a lot of things right, and it really jump-started popularity for D&D because there wasn't as much fiddly math. It was basic algebra from here on out. And the most basic of basic algebra at that. But as time goes on, and even if we just stick to the official Wizards of the Coast books on this one, it still becomes a thing of there is a right way and a wrong way to build Grug.
Yes.
Whereas I think what their intention was in the beginning was similar to how they had heavy number stats in advanced D&D like 2.0 and 1.0, but they really wanted you to focus on role-playing a character first.
So,
ish. The important thing to remember about realistic D&D is that all the stats you're seeing here are mainly for a combat system.
Yeah. Also,
there are skills, but those skills aren't really relevant to most what your character does. D&D, or the D&D 3.5 rules, pretty much only define what your character ever does in combat for 95% of the rules.
Also, when it comes to previous editions, the stat bonuses aren't as much of a thing as you would think. What determines your THAC0 for a fighter is what level your fighter is. First edition of D&D, the original box set, basically the very first thing. Stats, with the exception of charisma, for the most part, just determined what kind of EXP bonus or penalty you had or for the classes you were doing. So having a high strength would just give you a bonus to leveling up Fighting Man. Yes, it was called Fighting Man.
Yeah, and like even in the 3.5 DM guide, which is one of the first books to come out, anything they're talking about role playing doesn't really care about stats at any point. Unless it like specifically talks about like, oh, if your character's doing this, they may want to roll this type of skill check. But D&D, even now in 3.5, is all the rules are game towards the combat side of it. They don't really handhold you for how to do the role playing part. And mechanically, that makes sense because
As I went over,
your physical mechanical stats that are how your character works at punching things should never matter in how your character works on you actually playing them.
yeah, as I went over in the beginning, the role playing part's not actually the game part. The game part is the combat, and to some extent, any skill checks you might make are just kind of there to arbitrate or help arbitrate decision or help arbitrate like things that happen as to whether or not you succeed or fail. Kind of giving a general guideline system to stuff that goes on in the role playing sections, and or exploration. But exploration, okay, anyone who can actually find a very good exploration game, I would like to actually look at it and tell you whether or not you're a liar. But that's a different matter entirely.
Yeah, but as far as the role playing part of really any role playing game, the heavy lifting is generally going to be done by your DM.
Yeah.
Because you can't really codify into rules role playing.
Right. And now something to actually, well, kind of make fun of and just say I kind of found amusing. So here's this handy average ability score table.
Stat table.
Where, let's go with the highlights. Let's see. Great Earworm Gold Dragon is the highest example on 4 of these 6 tables.
On everything. Okay, not everyone.
No, not every one of them, but like 4 of them.
Okay, well, they'd never be the top of Dex, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah. One thing's dragons are better than Dex. Let's see.
Okay, I immediately call foul in that centipedes and locusts get to be counted as a swarm.
Well, you could have centipede swarms, yes.
Well, yes, but I mean, like, if we're talking about the collective average constitution of a centipede, like, with thousands of its friends,
the collective average. I mean, the collected average constitution of a regular centipede is probably also 8 or.
Yeah.
Being small doesn't mean you have bad con.
That is true. Let's see. But yeah, this table is to some extent of questionable use. Human is always 10 to 11. Which
it does show off some interesting things, like the fact that in this edition, ghouls, mummies, and shadows, and zombies, golems, and ochres, things that are sort of like undead, which show up on both the con table and the int table, don't have con or int unless you're actually an intelligent undead, like a vampire. Also, golems don't have intelligence scores, jellies don't have intelligence scores.
Yeah.
Freaker, which is literally just a fungus, doesn't have a dex score because it doesn't move. It's a fucking plant.
Yep.
And non-physical things like shadows and will-o-wisp don't have strength.
Yeah. To some extent, I guess this could kind of give you a reference for fantasy creatures, except it's not very good at that. Let's see. Charisma is a very questionable one way or the other, because what do you mean the octopus has 3 charisma? I'm not, what? It's and for some reason elves have a 14
I heard
wisdom.
what that octopus was saying about you behind your back.
That's some anti-octopus propaganda, and I won't stand for it.
Yeah. I still can't get over the owl having a 14 wisdom because bullshit. It's a bird.
Yeah.
And other things on that table that aren't fiction are non-existent. It's literally the only real life creature.
Why is a giant praying mantis also that wise?
I don't know.
Because the way they built their system, you can't just throw the animals as having like int 2, because then any will save fails automatically for them.
Yeah, basically. A giant praying mantis is actually meant to be fought because the word giant is thrown in there.
Yep. Giant, a modifier we throw on random regular things they want you to be able to fight. They have them theoretically be a challenge.
Land of the Giants.
Let's see. I think the next slide we've actually accidentally gone over anyways. But yeah, changing ability scores. Has the niceness of like every 4 levels you gain an additional point in ability scores. So I can go over later. But yeah, ability scores in this edition change not all the time. Like, Hopefully it only ever changes like when you get a new magic item or when you level. Realistically, there's a non-zero amount of creatures, however, that will do ability damage. This is insidiously painful on several levels, not of least of which is it changes all of the math on your character.
There's also ability drain, which is like ability damage but doesn't restore on its own.
Yes. How much you actually encounter this is based on whether or not your DM looked at the creatures he was adding to his fights and how much of a sadistic bastard he is.
Very much depends on your fighting. Like, ability damage isn't the most common thing in the world, but there are things where it's like, this is a ghost. When it touches you, it does a light amount of damage. And strength drain.
Yeah.
Also, because it's a ghost and like non-physical, it uses touch attacks. Another reason why Dex is a very important skill or attribute in this game.
Technically, so stupidly, touch for melee is strength. Range touch is Dex. Unless they have weapon finesse, in which case they can use Dex.
Well, yeah, but the ghosts that don't have strength use their Dex.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's right. They don't have strength and therefore use their Dex for that. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that touch AC exists as a thing makes Dex a more important stat, just in general, because
yep,
that's AC that armor doesn't help you with.
Because we have 3 different types of AC.
But
yes. Moving on to the next chapter. Races. Let's see.
It has all your standard stuff.
It has all your standard stuff.
I can see favorite class there, and I'm just going to ignore that.
Yes, favorite classes best ignored in this edition because it's one of the things that we did play with it kind of as a way of restricting our craziest stuff, but in retrospect, if we were to go insane or somebody was to give us a bunch of money to play this edition again,
I would crazy stuff though.
No, it doesn't. I would ignore it
because it doesn't affect prestige class.
No, and that's where all the crazy stuff really is. If somebody actually wanted to be level 1 in every class in this game, I would say go
Let
for it. Yeah. Yeah. So the player's handbook has 7 races in it, 6 trap options, and human. To show you how well balanced and designed this one is. But yeah, races do 2 things: ability adjustments, with the exception they adjust ability scores, and this always adds up to 0, with one exception. Because they rate strength more highly than they should have.
Yep.
And random class features. That the class features are flavorful for both good and ill. The balance of these class features does not always add up very well. Yeah, so the basic racial adjustments. The other issue with the basic racial adjustments are, let's see, +2 con, -2 charisma is okay, but not, like, amazingly useful.
I mean, +2 con, -2 charisma is perfectly fine because you're dumping a stat.
It's fine. Yeah, it's a dump stat, and
con is used by everyone.
Yeah, and con is used by everyone. It's fine, it's just that it doesn't actually, like, help with the inherent... This doesn't make the character more better at actually doing thing, it just makes it more survivable, which in and of itself not the worst thing in the world. +2 dex, -2 con on the other hand is ooh.
I mean, +2 dex is good. -2 con is painful.
Yeah. No, +2 con.
Especially when your favorite class is wizard.
Yeah.
Yep.
+2 con, -2 strength. Okay. Again, it's right up there with the dwarf. Strength is a more useful stat than charisma, but if you're not,
you could easily be doing a class that dumps strength anyway. So
yeah. Half elf is boring. Okay, so half orc is the exception, where it gets a -2 to intelligence and charisma, so -2 to a stat that actually matters, but is worth a trade-off for a +2 strength, kind of. It's worth the trade-off, but this is overkill.
But you also have to lose int.
Yeah. And halfling +2 dex, -2 strength. That one's
It's fine.
It's fine. It's actually good for a caster again because largely they don't use strength.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, going through it race by race. Here's the. That is actually the kind of one of the kind of interesting things of this edition's art in general is they tend to be a lot of sketchbook art.
Yep. The height chart thing, height
Yeah.
comparisons, realistically.
Yep. But yeah, give you a general idea of what they were going for with the fantasy tropes of the time. D&D through the editions, especially with 2024, kind of updates for the fantasy genre as it's kind of understood. But yeah, moving on, and I'll go over that later a bit. So here's this giant section on all the dwarf racials, which is easily the most racials anything has. Dwarves aren't
So
very
many racials.
good. By the way, dwarves aren't very good. Some of these are actually good. Is the worst part. +2 racial bonus against spells and spell-like abilities, for example.
Is good.
Yeah, is just plain good.
Just good.
Yeah. +4 dodge bonus against giants.
Situational, but when it comes up, it's good.
If your campaign is going to involve giants, it's great. If it's not, it's useless. Literally.
Then it's useless. Yeah.
As stability, you have to remember you have it. For the few times that anything decides to bull rush or trip you. And then there's other abilities. And there's stone cutting that takes up a shit ton of space to say a thing. It's
+1 attack bonus against orcs and goblinoids.
yeah.
Save
So
against poison.
So yeah, this peters
Weapon
out very quickly.
proficiencies.
Yeah. They have dark vision. That's kind of neat. Oh yeah. By the way, they also have only a 20-foot speed. This is painful.
But they're not slowed by wearing heavy or medium armor.
No, that thing you generally don't do very often in this edition.
Or while carrying a heavy or medium or heavy load.
So he can wield 14 weapons and have a grand piano on his back.
Correct.
Without caring about it. Yeah, so if you want to run a dwarf, you'll be fine. You'll be fine, but it's like this is hardly the best of options. And the bigger issue is just how big a list this is and whether or not you'll actually remember it is the other thing.
Or whether it comes up.
Or whether it comes up.
Everything besides the +2 to spells, which is just good.
Yeah.
Is entirely situational for very specific things you may never encounter.
Yeah. Next race, elf. Okay, you have a -2 con. This is part of that almost kills this by itself. Let's see.
Immune to sleep effects.
Immune to sleep.
I get +2 save against enchantments. You get a not quite as good of the just flat 2 to spells in general, but
yeah. Martial weapon proficiencies, which only matter to the classes that are already going to have martial weapon proficiency. Yeah, you could use longsword, rapier, longbow, short bow, no matter what class you pick.
Using a longbow as a wizard is better than using cantrips.
It is, but that's
because you're still gonna need a dex to hit with any touch attack spells.
Yeah. Is it worth picking elf as a race? No, it is not.
No. Well, base elf? No. High elf, we get +2 in.
Yeah, that's a different argument. But yeah, the elf that's presenting in this book is actually like the worst elf option. Let's see. +2 racial bonus on listen, search, and spot. Hooray. That's
+2 to perception.
Yeah. It's good because, as said, that's basically the best skill. These are listen and spot are basically the best
getting
skills
+2 to all three of those is nice, considering they are 3 separate skills in this.
Yeah, but it is.
But eating a penalty to con hurts.
Yeah. Gnome, which rivals dwarf for the amount of crap in here, but that's mostly because it gets spell-like abilities.
Does get spell-like abilities. It gets the same +4 dodge bonus against giants.
Yeah.
It gets the same. It gets +1 against kobolds and goblins, opposed to orcs and goblins.
Let's see.
Better illusion.
Better illusions. Yeah, so this one is like dwarves, also has a 20-foot movement speed, without anything that stands out.
Nope. It is a small race. I guess just naturally has a +1 AC and +1 hit.
Yeah, +4 to hide,
And
which
a
is
bonus
not
on hide.
nothing. Yeah. The big problem is it also competes with like halfling for small races and everything
You want higher con? But halfling has better racials.
Yeah, halfling has better racials than as opposed to dex. So yeah. Half elf. This is the most boring option in this book. It's not even good boring, it's just boring.
Gets the same bonus to sleep stuff that elves have. Gets a worse version of their stats, of their skill bonuses. Picks up a bonus on diplomacy and gather information checks. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is easily the most underdesigned thing, and I'm not sure why it's here.
Why aren't you playing human?
Yeah. All right, half orc. Something that actually recently disappeared from D&D. But yeah, in this edition, it has a strength bonus. So for once, it actually has a bonus to like a fairly relevant stat for making your guy done work better. That's pretty much the entirety of the class.
God, I
It has
forgot they
dark
didn't
vision.
give it like has no racials. Pathfinder gave it racials, but
Yeah,
half orc has +2 strength.
yeah, it has +2 strength and dark vision. That
Yep.
you count as an orc.
And counting as an orc, which is bad.
Generally, yes. Orc. You have the added bonus of knowing orc, and that's a non-trivial bonus in the sense that like you do want to know the languages of the thing you're fighting, and orcs in this edition are very much the Tolkien orcs. They are
Yes.
they are the corrupted evil thing, which is perfectly fine. That's just how they were in fantasy.
Yep.
Like orcs have come through a very weird journey, however, when it comes to fantasy in more recent years, and I blame / credit / I don't know what
World of Warcraft. It's all World of Warcraft.
Warcraft 3 and World of Warcraft. It technically started with Warcraft 3.
It is basically the Horde's version of orc that has brought them from being the like standard typical fantasy evil race to they're fine.
Yeah. It's kind of something
which on one hand fine, because there's a handful of other generic
so,
evil fantasy races.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
You have a decent amount of them, like Null for a very blaring example. But
goblins.
it also has the added bonus of orc is a lot less uncomfortable than half orc when it comes to just talking about, all right, how do you make a half orc? So anyways, demonetization. Demonetization is how we make a half orc.
That's part of the problem.
Yeah. They did one thing.
How do you make a half orc? You make a half elf, but you remove consent.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
I mean,
you're not wrong.
Not
I'm
wrong,
but
yeah.
I know the books say it.
So yeah, I'm generally pretty much in favor of what they did there, except I think they should have also kind of left the evil orcs, and they did something that was fucking stupid in the flavor text, but I'll go over that later because it's absolutely in this book as well. But that's a completely different matter entirely. But yeah, they're the big brawny race, and probably one of the few that are probably the only other race in this book that would actually give you pause over being human. Halfling makes for a decent rogue simply because small size is a legitimate bonus.
Bonus to hide.
Yeah.
Gets +1 to all saving throws.
It does get a +1 to all saving throws. They actually have solid racials enough. Like, yeah. And then for some reason I cut out human. All right, so let me go.
I'm sure there's a reason for that.
It's okay. I'll go over human. +1 to +2 to a stat of your choice.
No, that's Pathfinder.
Oh, that's like Pathfinder.
That's Pathfinder. They get no bonus skills. They get a bonus feat and 1 extra skill.
Okay, still bonus feats. Sorry, Pathfinder gave him +2.
They also have favored class any, but that's doesn't matter.
Okay, so briefly go into favored class. If you want a multi-class,
Yeah, if you want a multi-class, your favorite class
You
doesn't
take
count for.
XP penalties if you for every class you take, unless it's a favored class.
It's XP penalties for if it goes too far from each other. You
From
basically have to
from
balance
each
the
other.
class levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite class
But your
doesn't
favorite
count.
class doesn't count.
Yeah.
Humans can choose their favorite class as can.
Yeah. Prestige classes also don't count in this edition. Prestige classes are very much what you're working towards anyways.
Prestige classes are how builds actually work.
Yes.
Which is why a favorite class doesn't matter unless you're doing some weird. I want to go into like 7 different classes, and even then, just let your players. Who the hell cares?
Yeah.
There's a 95% chance they're making themselves worse by multiclassing.
Yeah.
You want to know the best thing about prestige classes in 3.5? They don't exist in the PHP.
Nope.
And if you have a DM that the only book they allow the player to use is the PHP, you don't get prestige classes.
If your DM only
allowed players
3.
handbook.
Yeah.
I played 3.5 for 3 years before I found out about prestige classes.
The dumb part is, if you're actually trying to keep the game fair and balanced, the worst book for fair and balanced in this edition generally is the Player's Handbook. Oddly enough, balance is better past this book. It also makes the physical classes less bad by a significant margin.
Yeah. Like, trust me, wizards can break the game with base Player's Handbook.
Yeah.
A fighter can't. Granted, a fighter will never break the game.
A fighter will never break the game. But yeah. And moving on to the classes themselves. And if balance wasn't dead in that chapter, it is dead here. Dead, buried, thrown foot first into a wood chipper. Okay.
The body eluded. You get 15 silver pieces.
Okay, so let's go over the positives first and foremost. This edition is great when it comes to actually, like, choosing classes, multi-classing, which we've gone over. It makes all of this simple. Also, levels, which I believe is actually the next slide. Yes. Levels, EXP is flat for every class, so you don't have that headache going on. And it is very easy to jump between classes, actually. It also introduces mostly because it introduces the idea of class level and character level, which makes for interesting builds, and you could hypothetically make your character however you want to. And then it shoots itself straight in the foot, because it's 3.5 and it can't not do that somehow.
It's real good at it.
Yeah.
Basically, right side good, left side bad.
Yep. So, as you can see, your bonus for class level scales with the level in that class. You'll also notice that at the very top, at class level 1, base attack they mostly did right, give or take, where unless you have a good base, a class has a good base attack, they're interchangeable between each other, but you start without the bonus when it comes to anything past that. When it comes to saves, on the other hand, for some ungodly reason, they decided that +2 your good save is just your level 1 bonus. So, when multi-classing, you can screw with the game's math hard by focusing on things with good saves.
Jump into a bunch of classes, like 1 level dips, just to get good stat or save bonuses, you can boost your save up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Your character's not going to do anything else because you just have level 1 in a bunch of classes. But you could have high saves.
This actually becomes more of a thing when you start to get into prestige classes, and especially weird-ass builds where you just qualify for a bunch of different prestige classes.
The other hard part of jumping into like 5 or 6 different classes just to get saves is you probably hope that some of those are going to be good base attack bonus classes, otherwise you're never fucking hitting anything.
Yep, that is also an issue. And you're not doing this as a spellcaster because spellcasting is independent to class level.
Correct. Spellcasting is only class-based. Class level-based.
So while you could, like, multi-class to make your character more interesting, it has to be done carefully or you basically just, like, completely screw yourself over. Also of note is class skills and cross-class skills, but we'll go over those in the skill section. But the other thing that is actually kind of nice and unqualified nice is feats.
Yeah.
Being the
Get
nice
one at first level and every 3 levels thereafter.
yeah, and that's tied to character level and is perfectly fine. It's actually
Yep.
well done enough. All right, so yeah, starting with this first class, Barbarian. They hit thing hard. They have highest hit die. They are incredibly mediocre.
They also sometimes just explode.
They sometimes just explode. Yeah, so raging in this edition works as a temporary bonus to your strength and con. That bonus to your con gives you extra hit points, except your con bonus goes away when you stop raging.
Raging, which means those hit points go away.
Yeah.
So if you say are raging and at least level 5, when you stop raging, you immediately lose 10 hit points. If you stop raging because you hit 0 hit points, you die instantly.
Yep.
And as you get higher level, this buffer of instantaneous death increases. So, like, even a level 20 barbarian, if you're at 30 hit points or low and you stop raging, you die instantly. Actually, it's going to be more than that because your con bonus is going to get higher.
Yes.
I think it ends up being like a +8. So if it's a +8, if you have 70 hit points or less and you stop raging at level 20, you explode.
But yeah, ideally it's the class that's kind of meant for combat, but that's not entirely correct. Strangely enough, they get 4+ int skills.
Yes, because they had to make fighter worse than them at something.
Yeah, they had to make fighter worse than them at something. This is the other part. Both barbarian and fighter kind of overlap with each other. Barbarian. There's also a weirdness of the class designs of they kind of work between two different concepts of this class is designed to go into prestige classes and this class is designed for you to kind of stay for it at 20 levels. And this one, the idea, at least from what I can see, because like every level has like
Has something.
Has something. So
it's important to note. Look at this that block there at the bottom of this page, and how in the special column all the way on the right, there's something at every level. You will not see that the second we see a caster.
Yeah, you'll not see that in a good portion of these classes, honestly. But yeah, Barbarian was kind of designed for you to stay in it, or at least looks like it was designed for you to stay in it. The problem is, it's not good, to be quite frank. It's fine, it's okay.
Pathfinder did a much better job of making sure people actually want to stay in this class.
Yeah, they did. That's mostly Pathfinder is kind of designed in the opposite way, where the classes are the alternate
the
class
classes are
features.
good, and there are prestige classes, and 99% of them are bad.
Yeah.
As opposed to the opposite of 3.5.
Yeah.
Where the game is get out of your base class as quickly as you
can. But yeah,
looking at that art, I just noticed like there is some real confusion as to that character's design.
What do you got wrong with Crush?
Why do they have that dagger tied to his wrist like that?
So he can punch a dude with a dagger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think he would do more damage just with his fist.
Porque los dos.
Why are the 2 arrows that are tied to his leg?
Because he may need exactly 2 arrows. I don't see what's so hard about this. If he needs more than 3 arrows, that was not a job for arrows.
Well, he also has a quiver of arrows.
I was going to say, it's the quiver of arrows on his other hip.
Those are the backup arrows. Maybe those were arrows that killed a particularly important thing, and he was like, I'm keeping these on my leg as a trophy.
Maybe, because he wants to be creative. He just wants to stab someone with an arrow.
Yeah.
Look,
but he's tied them to his leg.
Don't complain about Crash. We're gonna hit the sorcerer at a certain point.
Oh, God.
As far as character design, this is tame.
And I know exactly what the 3/5 sorcerer looks like.
But yeah, I think in general this book does suffer from thinking that melee classes are way stronger than they actually are in this game.
And they are.
Yeah.
Like, even to the point of like, you don't get 2 rages a day until level 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
You cap out at 6 rages a day.
Yep.
At level 20. When the full spellcaster has 50 spell levels to work with.
Yeah. Now, a lot of the role-playing campaigns that we've run, the ones that aren't actually modules but are just like freeform. Combat
The big campaign.
Yeah, the bigger campaigns. Combat tends to be like a once a day thing anyways, but on occasion we do go dungeon crawling, and if you're running any module, dungeon crawls are more common than not.
Yes.
So yeah, having 1 rage for 3 levels is painful. 2 is okay, and granted, this is something that gets fixed later, with Feats, because that is a lot of the duct tape this edition uses to actually make classes that previously were kind of ick, at least slightly better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be noted you can only rage once an encounter.
Yes, you can also only rage once an encounter because.
Well, yeah, because after you see it's raging, you get fatigued.
Yep.
Yeah, which at least thankfully is less painful than it is in 5th edition. But fatigue goes away reasonably quick too, from what I remember.
It's an equal. I think it's literally an equal amount of rounds as that of
so
the rage itself. So 3 plus your newly modified con mod.
Yeah, which is generally the whole combat, anyways.
Yep.
All right, so moving on. Bard. Bard is easily the best design class in this book. That's not even fucking close. It is not overpowered. It is not terrible. It is actually fine.
Yeah, provide some party buffs, get some spell casting. Can do broken things with spell casting, but never gets complete full casting or gets as silly as like wizards, clerics, druids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
I think, in spite how ridiculously common they were in Pathfinder, I think this is actually the only 2/3 caster I can think of in 3rd edition or 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. In any case, Bard's spell lists and spells primarily focus on exactly what you think they would, which is charms, trickeries, illusions, stuff like that. Their primary like standout thing is bardic music, which is basically a party buff. They get other songs that certainly do other things, especially as they get into higher level, but mainly inspire courage is what you're doing with music. Yeah, that's pretty much the description of this one. It is easily the best designed thing in this book, probably, actually.
It also gets like 6 skills a level. It does decent skill work. If you have one, it's going to take all the social skills because it actually has a charisma.
Yeah. Their casting is based off charisma.
Yep. Perfectly fine class.
Yeah.
The game has broken.
And now we break the game. Godzilla raises its ugly head.
And as I said, look at the special column.
Yep. Okay, so they have turn and rebuke undead and nothing else.
That's right. You only gain spell slots for leveling up in this class. You know what any prestige class you're going to go into? It's going to give you? It's still going to give you your spell class casting progression unless it's bad prestige class.
Yeah.
There's no reason to stay in this class as soon as you can leave it.
Yeah, as soon as you can get out of this class, you get spells. And if you stay in this class, you will still probably be one of the most powerful characters in the party.
You could just stay at 20 cleric. You'll still be better than every martial class in the entire game.
Yeah. So the cleric spell list is probably the second best or second worst spell list when it comes to the full casters. This isn't saying much. All of them are...
It's not wizard, but at the same time...
Yeah.
It's still capable of bullshit.
And the class features are a little deceptive. They also get domains, which are covered in the giant-ass spell casting paragraph, and more specifically in the spells section, so we'll go over them later. Only real negative is they don't really get that many skill points. It's base 2 plus int.
This isn't really much of a negative. Skills, but whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Spells more than make up for that, because this is the actual problem with skills in this edition is spells tend to like overwrite a lot of what you would be doing with them anyways. Like, if you need to sneak up on something, turn invisible. If you need a door open, cast knock. Granted, clerks don't have Clerk spell list doesn't have quite as good of access to stuff like that, depending on what domains they choose, but it's still a very good spell list.
Their toolbox is not as big at Wizards, but it's still enough to, if they want to fight, they can make themselves better than a physical fighter, and still have a decent toolbox on top of it.
Yeah. All right. Okay, this is even more broken.
Okay, remember how we talked about those first three attributes, the physical ones? They don't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Nope.
All right, so here's a class that can turn into animals and just adopt the animal's physical attributes. So
Yep, you keep your mental stats. You only use the animal's physical stats. Your physical stats don't matter at all.
Also, it has animal companion, and animal companions, on average, are about as good at fighting as fighters.
Uh-huh.
And
Now, I think it's worth noting that if base druid can't cast while wild shaped,
Correct.
and I don't believe the feat that let you cast spells while wild shaped existed in base book. But they did eventually add a feat that lets you cast spells while you're wild shaped. So once you hit level 4 and get your first feat, you can take that. It ceases to matter.
Yeah.
Technically, it would be.
It would be
level.
8. Yeah.
What I was gonna say. Well, no, because you get feats on third levels, so 6.
It's third levels. Yeah, it'd be 6.
Yeah, 6.
Yeah, because you had to have the wild shape ability to be able to get that feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, yeah.
Other class features you see on this list that aren't wild shape or animal companion really don't matter that much. Nice little trinkety things. You can't technically wear the metal armor that you weren't going to wear in the first place.
Your armor doesn't matter. You're turning into an animal that's better than natural AC.
Yeah. You're probably the worst of the full caster spell lists, but with the asterisk of you get Summon Nature's Ally. Furthermore, you can spontaneously cast Summon Nature's Ally. The other side I did go over.
Yep.
There are 2 different spellcasters types in this edition. There are the memorization casters, which work on the fully traditional Vancian system of every single spell slot you choose what spell is in that slot, and then you cast, and then you can cast that spell.
Yeah.
And the spontaneous casters, which work like 5th edition actually works, where they know a bunch of spells and they can just use their slots for whatever they know.
Yep. Typically the bard and sorcerer were the spontaneous casters.
Yeah.
Everyone else was prepared casters. But then you have other stuff like the druid who can spontaneously cast Summon Nature's Ally with spell slots.
Yes. And
clerics tend to have had whatever their domain was.
No, clerics would spontaneously cast cure or inflict.
Yeah, they can spontaneously cast cure or inflict depending on their
right, yeah.
It should be noted that spontaneously casting Summon Nature's Ally is
good. It's really good.
It's really good and really bad in the sense that, okay, depending on how you build a skill, spellcasters are powerful, but there's the asterisk of it depends on how you build it, and newer players to the game don't always stumble upon the game-breaking spells. You're spontaneously casting one of the bigger game-breaking spells. It is throwing it right in your fucking face. Summon spells. Summon Nature's Ally is the weaker of the summon spells, and it still basically breaks the game.
Summon spells are, let me open up this giant book of pick thing that is best suited to whatever we're dealing with right now, and then just have it.
It is a fixed list somewhat, but the fixed list is generally, like, everything you're spontaneously casting here is you're basically summoning another fighter into the fight.
Yeah, I mean, Summon Nature's Ally isn't as busted as Summon Monster, because you're dealing with typically things that are typically just going to fight. Yeah. Bears and, cats, big animals who are fairly straightforward. When we'll eventually get to Wizard and the ability to use the Summon Monster spells, the things that summon monsters can do varies wildly, because half a dozen of the things you're going to summon all have spell-like abilities, which means you could just pull all sorts of random shit out of your ass by summoning a monster that has it.
Yep.
Animal Companion works kind of on a similar manner. Like, say, hey, I want a big cat, and you're new to the game, and suddenly you have a...
And suddenly you have a thing that has a pounce, so just throws every single attack it makes every time it charges.
Yeah, so you have a animal companion that's better at combat than the guy running the fighter.
Yeah, you have an animal companion that throws 5 attacks every time it charges, as opposed to 1.
Yeah. Let's see. And speaking of, the fighter, the worst fucking laid out class in this book. This book's layout, by the way, is when it comes to flipping through a book, just kind of painful because things have advanced a lot. Fighter somehow is on 3 pages. The third page is just that thing in the middle. Also,
how is the blandest class option available take up that much real estate?
Oh, because you see there's wild shape over there taking up the bulk of one of its pages.
Yeah.
It's a layout issue, not an actual issues fighter.
Yeah, it's split between 3 pages because of the layout issues with this edition in general.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's like the last half, so it's like a quarter of the page is where fighter starts. Then it has a page which is mostly fluff descriptions. Then it has game rule information. Then it goes into the starting packages, which were certainly a thing, and we certainly didn't forget they existed because no one ever cared about them.
By the way, abilities for fighters: get a bonus feat at first level and a bonus feat every evening. Done.
Yeah, that is the entirety. And you have a good attack bonus.
That's fight. You have good attack bonus and good fort save.
Good fort. Yep.
So fighter is simultaneously the weakest and strongest martial.
But fighter is scales the longer 35 exists.
Yeah. In this book,
your entire.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say when the entirety of your abilities depends on what splat books have been released for your system.
Yeah, like base book, there's not really enough to support it. But as the game went on, and you got more and more options, fighter became better. Yeah, but even then, it's a matter of navigating what feats are good and what feats are a complete waste of your time.
Yep.
I'm looking at you, pile of feats trying to make crossbow usable.
We'll eventually make crossbow usable. Spoiler, they never make crossbow usable.
Oh no,
I was going to say. Why would you lie
can have
to them
half
like
as many feats of a bow and be significantly better than crossbow will ever be.
Yes. But yeah, the biggest problem the fighter has is, well, Druid exists partially, but even ignoring the fact that Druid basically summons fighters as spells spontaneously, and has one just sitting right next to it.
Has one sitting right next to it, turns into one, and can call another one.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
Oh, no, it can call more than another one. Concentration isn't a thing in 3.5. You can cast summon over and over again.
Yep.
But don't worry, out of combat,
you can flood the field with animals.
Yeah, and don't worry, out of combat, you have 2+ int skills and no class features whatsoever that have to do with out of combat. Because those bonus feats are not universal bonus feats. They have to be
combat
used
feats.
Yeah, no, combat feats isn't a thing yet. They have to be used for specific feats that say they can be taken as a fighter bonus feat.
Yep. Yeah, it has to be drawn from the fighter bonus feat table.
Yes. It should be noted that in later books,
a lot of Pathfinder will eventually call combat
feats. Yeah. To simplify, having to put this fucking text at the bottom of every new feat we invent that should probably be a fighter feat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also of note, it actually has like 2 iconic pictures.
Yep, has both a dwarf and him.
Yep.
Regdar and what the hell the
dwarf? Tordek. The name is actually right there.
Star of that famous game. Let's get Regdar, Hummer, and a burrito.
Also, these are actually pretty normal pictures. I'm actually fucking surprised.
It's a fighter.
Yeah,
just a dwarf guy with a dwarven war axe, and
yeah, that's nice.
Just a human dude with a bow and a bastard sword.
Yeah, there's scale armor with some leather underneath. It's like, yeah, no, it looks perfectly fucking normal.
Now, you don't know if that sword's mother and father were married.
Oh, hey, this class is bad.
Yes.
Yes.
Monk.
It is my favorite class to play that was really bad.
Oh, yes. So, as you can see, Monk gets a shit ton of class features. Flurry of Blows is actually legitimately good. Unfortunately, this doesn't make up for everything else that's wrong with it.
Monk is mad.
Yes, that's the biggest issue it has. MAD standing for multiple attribute dependency. So basically, its AC is it gets to add its wisdom to AC. So
It can't wear armor.
It can't wear armor while doing that.
It loses like half its abilities for wearing armor.
And it loses like half its abilities wearing armor. If you're wearing a monk, you're not wearing armor basically. It's hitting a bunch, so you can't really, but doesn't really have any inherent flat bonuses to damage. So like tanking
It doesn't really want to dump strength.
Yeah, it doesn't really want to dump strength. It doesn't necessarily have to have the highest strength, but it doesn't want to dump strength. It needs a dex.
It wants to dump strength less than like a weapon user using dex and not strength wants to dump. Yeah. Because it's also more painful to increase the damage of your unarmed strikes than it is a weapon.
Yeah.
Yep.
We'll get into it when we start talking about magic items.
Yeah. That is the other issue. Magic items are distinctly unfriendly to this class.
Yep.
But yeah, it gets a lot of class features, and I already mentioned the one standout, which was Flurry of Blows. It has some bonus feats. Evasion's actually a good class feature.
Evasion's a good class feature, but you can get it on Rogue.
It's also level 2, so yeah, there's that. And yeah, you get it on Rogue anyways. Like, they vary from okay to okay, that's a thing I guess. I guess. Slowfall, yay! I can compete with a level 1 spell. That's about it.
You play monk when you are rolling stats because you're using stat roll for some reason, not point buy or better system.
Yep.
And your rolls just went crazy.
Yeah.
You have like 2 18s, a 17, and a 16. You can make monk actually work.
You can make monk actually work, and you'll still be mediocre at best.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what level you're playing at. If you're playing really low level and you end up getting that stat block, monk is fantastic.
Except you'll still get killed by level 1 wizard casting color spray.
Yeah, but everything will get that.
Which is the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'm just saying that's not a monk problem. That's an every class problem.
That is to some extent an every class problem.
But you need those perfect stats to make monk work.
That's what I'm saying. If you're playing a low level and you roll that, go for monk. If you're doing anything other than that right there, don't do monk.
The other problem is if you get that great stat, you could go for like fighter or barbarian and probably still be better than.
Yeah, that'd be the other issue.
Because monk needs all those stats to function. Whereas all the big stats are just extra icing on the cake for other classes.
Or
especially a paladin. This is the other thing. If you're actually that mad, you're going to make a much better paladin.
Yeah, you'll make a paladin.
Yeah.
Because then you can actually have charisma and all your physical stats.
And wisdom, because that's your casting stat.
And wisdom, etc. But you're barely you're not casting shit with DCs.
No, but you generally want to actually have your spells.
You need at least a 14 to cast everything.
Actually,
a couple extra spell slots is nice, but it's not going to break them.
I have it at 14. You'll have some extra spell slots anyways, and usually you'll grab the wisdom item because there's no reason not to. In truth, casting is actually shit for paladin in this book, but as more books are released and they get more spells, they become better. Yeah. In general, in this book, paladin is it's okay to bad. Like honestly,
like the best thing paladin has going for it, honestly, is divine grace at level 2, where, as we talked about earlier, it adds its charisma to every 12 it saves.
Yeah.
So it is one of the most saved defensive classes.
Yeah, it is easily the most defensive or best class at defending itself against basically everything. Like a fighter can have a really good AC, and then something casts a will save on it, and yeah.
A paladin who didn't dump charisma will have a decent will save, even though it's not their good save.
They'll also usually have a decent wisdom because they're not going to dump that.
Yeah, because they can't dump wisdom because they need to cast spells. And then once you throw spell casting on top there's great buff spells paladin can get, especially as the game went on.
Yeah.
That just getting feats doesn't make up for.
Yeah. Well, they are kind of mad. They do have the advantage of they don't actually need like amazingly high stats in like charisma or wisdom.
No, so you can get away with 14 wisdom. Yeah. And you can get by the time you get a couple extra spell slots out of having higher wisdom, you're high enough level to just buy a stat.
Yeah. And
same thing like charisma, you could buy a stat item, just instantly get better saves at higher level.
Yeah. And Smite Evil is just a good class feature. It is, as long as you can determine that this thing is evil or not, which is very, very, very easy for veteran players, with like some fringe cases of bullshit nonsense like spiders animated by other spiders.
That's a Pathfinder monster.
That is a Pathfinder monster, but I can still
You
complain about
didn't have to
being
deal with the undead spider that was just a large spider husk full of actual spiders. That wasn't undead, but was not evil. Your smite didn't work.
find like the one non-evil undead in the entire
Correct.
goddamn
It is
monster
a
manual.
neutral undead. I mean, they are good undead, but it's a neutral undead.
It's very
that,
few and far
God,
between.
why?
Yeah. Yeah. Paladin also gets a lot better as this edition goes on, but like, it is probably one of the better marshals in this book. Honestly, if you just had to run with this book, that's not.
It's a more defensive fighter, but
Yeah.
it gets, but probably honestly still better than fighter, even with the extra feats fighter gets. And then as it got more options, the increased options while they were helping fighter with more feats, I think it just helped Paladin more.
Yes. Also, things like I'm pretty sure there's a feat that's 4 extra smites a day, which was just
there is one that's
absolutely
like
needed.
Day, so
Yeah.
boost your smite up quickly.
Yeah. Ranger. See, kind of what we said about Paladin, but like slightly different.
Do you know what your campaign is going to be fighting?
Yeah, basically, do you know what your campaign is?
You know what your campaign is going to be fighting. Ranger's a fantastic martial class.
That is true. Yeah, so Rangers, one of Ranger's primary ability is favorite enemy, which is pick
pick an enemy type, get +2 bonuses to a handful of stuff towards it.
Yeah, and
attack, damage, a handful of skill checks related to like tracking.
Yeah. And notably, this scales. Every time you get a new favorite enemy, one of them goes up by 2.
Yeah, every 5 levels, you get another favorite enemy. You pick another thing, that one gets +2, and then you get a +2 to add to any of your existing favorite enemies.
Yep.
So if you know what you're fighting the entire campaign, you can just have a flat +10 attack and damage against it and a bunch of skills related to it.
Yep.
Which is huge.
Combat style is also their other major feature, where you can either be a good archer or actually make dual wielding work without driving yourself insane.
You also get animal companion.
Yes, you also get animal companion, but it has...
you also come with a pocket fighter.
Yeah, not as much. It has a decent...
It's not as good because it has less scaling, but
yeah, I think it's like half level scaling, so it is not a pocket fighter. Your fighter will outdo a ranger's animal companion. Hopefully.
Unfortunately, your fighter fighting against a ranger animal companion and a ranger.
Yeah. And a ranger does a competent impression of a fighter, honestly.
If you're getting good mileage out of favorite enemy, it's probably better than fighter. If you're not, you're probably better off being fighter, especially as the game. Extra spells expanded spell list and stuff didn't benefit ranger as much as expanded as they did for like paladins.
Yeah.
Fighters getting all their extra feats.
But yeah, in general, this is the class that is best if you have your DM's notes.
Hey, you're doing a dragon-centric campaign. Excellent.
Yep. Or alternatively, you're running a module and you know what's in it.
You're running the module Red Hand of Doom, and you've looked at the back of the book, so you know you need bonuses against orcs or bonuses against dragons.
Yeah. Rouge.
There's a Rouge. Get sneak attack.
Yep. Yeah. It's very much Rogue is. It's kind of like the oddest class when it comes to. It is probably the most over-fair class in this entire book. On paper, it looks like it does amazing things, but at the same time, a lot of this edition's power imbalances kind of undermine them. It has trap finding. It is good at finding and disarming traps. You know what else is good at finding and disarming traps? A 10-foot pole.
10-foot pole, a bag of infinite rats.
Yeah. Traps in general are all... This also like kind of runs into conflict of what the hell is your DM doing with traps? I'm asking this as an honest question. Is like, are they just thrown in at random just to screw with the players? Or are they actually trying to like make them interesting and like puzzly? At which point, the guy
Trap
that
line doesn't matter.
huh? At which point,
At which point,
doesn't
trap
matter.
line doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Are you using them to be a you don't have a rogue, so here's just an occasional hit on your resources, or you do have a rogue. Here's something that the rogue can do, or you're doing like, oh, there's a pressure plate over there. You guys have fucking brains.
yeah. You guys have brains. You threw a rock at it from a distance, and whatever it is went off, and you're good.
Or like, oh, there's a combat happening here, and you know there's a pressure plate over there. Maybe you can use that to your advantage.
Yeah. Like, it is very hard to actually make a trap finding feature work. So it's just kind of like this giant chunk of the class that doesn't really do as much as you actually want it to. Now, the other chunk of the class, sneak attack, on the other hand, is good, except when it does nothing.
Now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So one of the things is, for all of D&D's history, like going back to as far back in D&D and computers have coexisted, people have been making video games that just use the tabletop rules.
Yeah.
Like, no, or a minimal amount of shaving off to go from pen and paper game of imagination to physical constraints, electronic media product. And the balance changes significantly when you go to the games, because then you're bound by what the classes can do as far as their programming goes. So in a regular game of tabletop D&D, everything my cohorts have said is completely 100% valid. When the game doesn't let you use a bag of infinite rats, and by the way, I didn't know there was a thing to the bag of infinite rats, and that is amazing.
It's not specifically called a bag of infinite rats, but there's basically a bag you can pull an infinite number of small rodent type things from, and rats is one of the things you pull from. It's an actual magic item. It's commonly used specifically for throwing rats into traps.
Yeah, but like those old games, which the most famous of which were collected as like the Gold Box games, rogues were invaluable because nobody else could disarm traps.
Hypothetically,
Yeah, but that's the, you don't have a rogue, so traps exist just to be a burden to the party's resources level of traps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is one of the theory levels of traps. The traps exist so rogue can do something or be a burden on the party's resources. They don't.
Yeah.
Unless you give them some sort of puzzle ability to figure out what traps are, and
That
not
would-
just like, oh, you stepped on the wrong spot that you have no idea of figuring out without having one particular class in your party, so you lose some health.
Yeah.
Sure. But for someone like me who's mostly got experience only with the electronic side of D&D and doesn't have nearly as much experience or breadth of knowledge as someone like, say, Shiv or Vince, or just the breadth of experience playing these systems, it's easy to see rogues in a different light.
Yeah.
Just because of that.
Yeah, it is one of those things where it's an ability that works a lot better in a weird fixed campaign, where the rogue it becomes kind of a useful resource just from having trap finding, than it is all in the pen and paper where, okay, what are we doing? Is more of the question, because it's not so. Again, it's a role playing game with a combat system, and to some extent exploration, which varies a lot in how well that gets run, but that's a different matter entirely. But exploration is very much in the role-playing part of the game still.
Yes.
So making it like, and you walk down the dungeon, and rogue, roll some dice. Okay, that was fun. Let's... It's like...
Yeah. It's like, it works better, I think, in a video game, like to an extent. Like it works decently well in a video game type situation where it is like a bunch of fixed stuff that's always going to be the same, and it's all adjudicated to work adjudicated to work a certain way. Then, as I said, like, yeah, you enter a dungeon. Okay, do you have a rogue with you? Yes. Okay, well, the rogue, make a spot check. Oh, you didn't spot it. Okay, party takes 5d6 damage for existing. But it also is a case of like, if you're going to put shit like that, and the only thing that can find it is a rogue, it really just reeks of a stupid, like, well, if you have a fixed party that's always going to have a rogue, then you're putting the traps in there just so the rogue has something to do. If you have an unfixed party, you're putting the traps in there to punish the party that didn't take a single class.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, while it is like invaluable so you don't take damage from the trap, it is just not necessarily the best game design.
Yeah.
Of this only exists so this one class can do something, or this only exists to punish the party for not taking that one class out of the 10 options.
Well, I think people realize that going forward, at least in the electronic space, is because after we got out of the gold box and we got into things like Baldur's Gate and
Neverwinter
Neverwinter
Nights.
Nights, they gave people ways to do non-rogue dealing with traps, throwing barrels on it and stuff, or casting a fireball or shooting it with an arrow or something like that would work.
Yeah.
And it went back to falling into the same pitfalls that we were talking about at the beginning with Rogue.
Now, if they do traps and Rogue is just a bit better at noticing them, so you get it like anyone can see a trap, but a Rogue's gonna have a higher, spot check or whatever. I think that's fine, because then it's like you're not putting the traps in there just for Rogue to exist to have something to do.
Yeah.
But the Rogue's more likely to make you notice a trap, but you can still know something about them. I think that's probably fine. But when it's solely a case of this is the purview of Rogues, like in 3.5, only Rogues can use the search skill for trap finding. If you aren't a Rogue, you can't find traps by base rules.
Yep.
At least for higher DCs. I think it's the DC limited one.
Yeah.
Let me check for difficulty classes higher than 20.
Yeah.
So if it's a hard like a difficult trap, if you don't have a Rogue, no one can do it, which is just really bad game design.
Yeah.
But there are lots of issues with 3.5. Oh.
Yeah.
This is hardly the most egregious of them.
Oh no, this is really low on the low end, because basically, in spite that, if you ignore
and you could also completely remove trap finding and Rogue's still fine.
Yeah, that being the thing, you remove all the trap stuff, the trap finding and trap sense from this this class is still a perfectly fine class. It doesn't stand out, it's not amazing, but it's also like much more functional just on its own. As you could take 20 levels in Rogue, and you do have to make some semi-optimized design decisions to not like completely be bad, but like they're almost intuitive. Like, you have a high dex, okay, good. You took the thing that lets you. You took weapon finesse, obviously, and okay, you're solid.
You're also the dex-based combat class that can most easily just completely ignore strength, because most of your damage is going to come from sneak attack anyways.
Yep. Most of your damage comes from sneak attack, except when it's not, because this is the edition where sneak attack is a lot worse.
And if it's not triggering, you just don't hurt things.
Basically, if it's
it's
not triggering,
fine.
You can sneak attack versus living things. Living things do not include undead, constructs, oozes, plants, incorporeal creatures that lack vital parts, elementals, a lot of things.
Werewolves every other Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Does it have a discernible anatomy? And by anatomy, we mean like hearts and lungs.
Yeah.
I was about to say, does it have a discernible anatomy? If so, do we have the book for you? It's called the Book of Erotic Fantasy.
Erotic Fantasy is not an official book. It will not be covered.
We are not touching the Book of Erotic Fantasy, thankfully.
Most people didn't.
Cowards.
For the betterment of society.
Since you brought it up, I'll have to go into it real quick. There's a spell that gives people crabs. Okay, moving on.
That's probably one of the blandest spells in that book.
Oh, it's absolutely one of the blandest spells, but it just amuses me. It's like such a petty dick move.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have all these horrible spells. What do you do? I gave her crabs. Like, with magic. Just to be fair, I didn't touch her. I used magic.
That's so much better.
You know what, Cardunculus the Wizard? That's even worse. I think having to specify you did it with magic just makes it 100 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Well, I don't want to imply that I had crabs.
And just to explain to anyone who's familiar with 5th edition what's different for sneak attack here, because
sneak attack works once around.
Yeah, sneak attack works once around in 5th edition. In 3.5, it works on every attack you make, so long as you are either flanking, or
your opponent doesn't have a dexterity bonus. Save.
Yeah, you're attacking their flat-footed AC, which is they don't get their dex bonus. So it's maybe a hair harder to do in the sense that you can't just shoot at someone who's next to one of your dudes and you don't have I give up all my movement in order to just have advantage on this attack and suddenly I'm good. On the other hand,
On the other hand, when you're flanking,
yeah,
and you're dual wielding and throw, 6 attacks around, if you hit with
Yep.
all of them, they all get an extra 10d6 or whatever,
yeah, depending on what level you are, but yeah.
depending on what level you are.
And yeah, Rogue is usually one of the few classes that can actually take all the dual wield feats because they require very high dex bonus.
Yep.
But we'll get to that later. Trademark. Also, they get special abilities. I forgot they got those.
Yeah, level 10 and higher, the something at 3 levels, probably not that important.
No, they weren't. They're possibly on the next page. Oh, they actually are on the next page.
Some strength damage on sneak attacks, which is actually the worst.
Improved evasion, that was actually on that. Yeah.
Improved evasion.
Well, anyway, Sorcerer. As you can see, Sorcerer's class features consist of Summon Familiar, which is pick a...
Hold on, before we look at that, let's take a look at Hemet's drip.
Yes.
What the fuck?
Yes, Hemet, pretty much the most infamous character in this book.
That is up to his mid-torso and down an entire leg of belts.
Did Nomura design this character?
He has a short spear for reasons. They bring it back, but he has it.
There's a non-zero chance that the other leg is also has belts. It just is covered.
It just has a pant leg over it as well.
Yeah.
The more impressive thing is, how does he get a single pant leg to stay up?
I mean, considering
Belts.
you can see down there at the bottom, the pantsed leg also has belts on it.
Oh,
It
of course.
probably is belts all the way up. The bepanted leg.
Yeah, I have no idea what the hell they were thinking. Hemet's fine.
I belts all the way down.
Belts all the way down. But yeah, back to actual class features. Something familiar.
Yeah.
Wizard will get this too.
Yes. All right, we're done.
Yep.
So, Sorcerer is generally considered a weaker wizard, and by that we mean it's still game-breakingly busted.
The advantage that Sorcerer has over Wizard is more spell slots.
Yes.
The disadvantage is limited spell pool.
Yeah. Yeah, basically a sorcerer knows the spells that it knows. It can't learn them from scrolls like a wizard can.
Or copying spell books.
Or copying spell books or anything like that. And it can't change them out pretty much at all. Yeah,
But can cast them all day long.
Yeah, also familiars exist. Anyways, in this edition, they're like a minor bonus to a skill or to a save. Usually it's a bonus to a save. They can technically run into combat and then die horribly very quickly.
They are just a base animal of that type with like
they have extra hit points and stuff, but
a small amount of extra hit points.
Yeah, it's not enough to save it from much of anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sorcerer and Wizard are better talked about in the spell section because that is basically their class features. Is they cast spells.
Yep.
Speaking of Wizard, Wizard has slightly more because they actually get bonus feats, so they can get into prestige classes that much faster. Slightly.
Yeah, they also got the Scribe Skull feat.
They are unique in the fact that they are so. Clerk and Druid are memorization casters. They have their entire spell list to choose from. Wizard is limited to whatever they have in their spell book. The amount of spells in their spell book grows faster or grows fairly quickly, and they can any scrolls they find they can copy down into their spell book. So they tend to have a fairly large list of spells. It should also be noted they have a D4 hit die. They only have goodwill saves, and they are easily the most powerful class in the game.
The main thing you need to do as a wizard is make it past your early level.
Yeah.
When we get to the spell section, they gave you an incredibly powerful spell for making it past your early levels.
Even your early levels have some reasonably impressive things. It's just you have like 2 first level spells. What the hell are you going to do in a combat?
They gave you an auto fight ender at level 1.
Yeah.
Balance.
Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot to go over the rest of the negatives. They also don't wear armor. Neither wizard nor sorcerer wears armor. Armor interferes with arcane casting in this edition.
Yes, armor has an arcane cast failure chance on it.
Yeah. And they don't have proficiency innately in it.
Nope. This doesn't matter.
Wizard also only gets 2+ modifier skills. However, this is really fucking deceptive. Because it is their casting stacked. They stack hint. They stack hint a lot.
Yep.
All right, let's go on to skills. I love, hate, and hate this at the same time, all at the same time. In and of itself, this entire skill section could be a role-playing game by itself.
I could see that argument.
Yeah. Okay, so kind of going over the stuff I like and the stuff I hate. The stuff I like is you actually get a decent amount of skill points, and it goes up every level. And when it comes to the skills themselves, I mean, this varies a lot from class to class and what your int bonus is. But the people that actually do get skills, which are not the ones that should, quite frankly, like fighter, all the martial classes should just get more skills, with all the caster classes having less.
Like, but we need barbarian to be better at something.
Yes. And like, I think the numbers are too small in general when it comes to all the martials.
I mean, the numbers are too small in general considering how many skills there are.
That doesn't help either. But yeah, when it comes to the actual designs of the skills and the general ethos of them, I actually kind of like them in the sense that once you hit a certain number in a lot of the skills, you are basically done. You will not fail a check in this skill. And these do like increment every level. Would be legitimately interesting as a more focused on system in a game that didn't involve combat per se. But the problem is, okay, here's the fucking skill list.
Yep.
There are several issues with this skill list. Most notably is this is incredibly bloated and is also way too granular at the same time in a lot of ways. What I kind of mean is, okay, that's a lot of knowledge skills.
That is a lot of knowledge skills.
Every single knowledge skill is its own individual skill. This thing called profession is anything you could fucking think of as a profession. Correct. It is a skill for fucking reasons.
Do you want to make bows? Bow maker's a profession. Do you want to be a baker? Baker's a profession. Craft is also the same way.
Craft is also the same way. Craft is a little bit more understandable than profession. That'd be the thing. Also trying to distinguish between craft and profession is a little bit hard.
Yeah. Craft is technically the actual making of things, whereas profession is doing that job, and that's still confusing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to make armor, you actually need, like, craft armor maker, or craft armor. Not profession blacksmith or profession armorer.
Well, yeah, craft is to make an actual item. Profession is to make a job of it.
Okay, so going back to me watching too much, entirely too much stuff in context when it comes to older RPGs. So non-weapon proficiencies aren't necessarily something that shows up in all of the 4 to 9 previous editions of D&D. That there were. Some for skills have, or skills / non-weapon proficiencies have literally nothing. And this is actually almost is kind of an intentional design choice, because to some extent, skills. The argument, as much as I'm trying to steelman it because to some extent I agree and to some extent I disagree, do kind of limit player choice in their ability to do things. There is a decent amount of, all right, we come across a puzzle. Let me start my skill list in order for like new players. And to some extent that's true, but to some extent it's not. And there are certain things that are like, all right, but there are some things that are like, does my character know how to do this? Is it in your background? But okay, that seems a little bit sus. And how much can I power game my background and or work it in? Or is it just something I didn't previously state but could be possible, etc.?
Hmm.
So I kind of half get the argument from basically OSR people that skills are kind of a net negative on the game for existing, but at the same time, they also kind of aren't, because there's stuff like a rogue is going to want a stealth man, and having an actual like solid concrete system that has like stealth is kind of a thing.
Here's how stealth works. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
here are the skills for stealth, so you can bump these up, be better at stealth.
Yeah. Same with perception and things. There are very base things, and you could say they could be tied to the base stats, but that just kind of makes it incredibly swingy at the same time. It means no one could actually be trained in one thing or another there.
Well, it makes it swingy. It makes it so you can't do a build where, like, I'm a fighter who doesn't have a great dex, but I am actually good at sneaking, so I've trained in, like, skullduggery and sneaking about while not having a massive dex score.
Yeah.
But if you tie it entirely to the stat, then you can't have a non-dex based sneaky person.
Yep.
Which also comes back to one of the flaws of this edition of, okay, so there's class skills and cross-class skills. Shiv, do you remember how the fuck this works?
Yeah, so for cross-class skills, you can only have half the number of regular skill points in it than you would normally have.
Yeah. That's why every class started with 4 times 2 plus int modifier.
Also, for some reason, you started at 4.
Yeah, you started at 4. So yeah, the base is 4, but you can only have half of that, and it goes up 1 per level, but you can only have half of that rounded down.
Max skills into a skill at level 20 is 23 for some reason, and not just 20.
Yeah. Okay, that is the simple explanation before we get into multi-classing.
We could not.
Just don't multi-class.
Don't. Yeah. Or make sure the class skills for both, whatever you're putting points into, is a class skill for both, and don't worry about it.
Yes, technically, for the skill points you gain from a given level, when you're applying those skill points, they work effectively like they are like cross-class matters for those ones too. So, as a very brief example, if you were, say, a wizard 15 and then a fighter 5, wizard 15 would give you up to an 18 in a arcane or spellcraft.
Yeah,
but those 5 levels of fighter would only give you 2 more onto that, because it's a cross-class skill. So your cap, if you were a 20 or 15 wizard 5 fighter, would be 20, as opposed to 23.
Oh, also, your cross-class skills cost twice as much to put a point in.
Yes. So you'd still have to put 23 points into it to get a 20.
Yeah.
Technically, you'd only put 22 points, because there's no reason to put the half point in and do anything. But
so the odd part is, when you take a wizard level, you can put points to catch up to it that are only at 1 per point. So you could like not take points in it when you do a level fighter, and then when you do a level of a wizard again, put 2 points into it to catch up.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
It is completely unnecessary. Yeah. So you can see why. This is one of the reasons for like the double hate of this. The other one is just the fucking skill bloat. That is
if you want to make it even more complex at some point, just alt the thing.
Yes. So, for example, our example of sneaking around. Do you know what type of check you do to sneak around?
Of course. That's going to be probably a combination of either hide and move silently.
Yep.
Stealth was split up into 2 skills too.
Right.
Now, perception is generally considered the strongest skill in every single fucking game it is in, for obvious reasons.
But in this, it's spot and listen.
Yeah. I actually kind of get that, because it hypothetically weakens perception. The problem is it's also a giant fucking pain in the ass.
I think say also you can have one person who has really good eyesight and terrible hearing.
You can. But
which makes sense, but yeah.
It makes sense, but it's also kind of a pain on the DM's part of it, because it's like, that's also why hide and move silently are different skills, because one is for spot.
Yeah, you could be good at moving silently, but not actually hiding. You could be good at hiding, but not actually moving about.
Yep.
At which point you're bad at sneaking.
But then you're bad at sneaking, so sneaking is really a 2-point or 2 stat penalty.
Yeah.
A 2 stat required to make the skill work thing, which is just unnecessary.
There are plenty of rocks to hide behind, but it's all covered in crunchy leaves.
Yeah.
Like same thing with, but then you make both your stats, or just make a single hide stat because you know how to fucking hide.
Yeah.
Or stealth stat because you know the general of stealth, whether or not it's not making much noise, or it's moving quiet, or it's find the right spot to hide. Similarly, this is why eventually things like balance, jump, etc. got moved into like athletics or acrobatics.
Acrobatics, yeah.
And then things like climb and swim eventually got switched to skills.
Well, climb and swim are also in athletics. Basically, all the strength.
Yeah, a bunch of stuff ended up in athletics, and then they also did acrobatics.
Yeah, all the strength skills got added to athletics. Some of the dex skills
got added to acrobatics.
Yeah. All right. So more of what I hate about this editions of skills. Did not make a slide. Where? Okay, I know that slide exists.
Good, we're free.
Run!
Where is the folder? Yeah, I somehow did not make that slide. All right, so all right, so the other thing that is not obvious unless you literally look straight at the skill, there's a thing called synergy bonuses.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Matter of fact, let me pull up what I was... Thankfully, I did plan for this.
Was a thing. Yeah, we can just move on.
My PDF viewer is not responding.
Even it don't want to deal with it. It knows better.
No, it's because the PDF is on an external HDD, so it needs to actually start up. And this will be brief. In general, I also just want to show what a skill looks like in this book. All right. There we go. So yeah, you can see balance here. So yeah, in general, it will have like, here's modifiers, here's some basic ideas, here's a DC, and like, if you look at like, if you added like all of these like modifiers and like the highest DC, it's like 20, 30, 34.
Right, tumble was a skill.
Yep. Yes, tumble is a skill.
Oh god, tumble. Fuck.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to combat. But yeah, there are synergy bonuses. So you see you have 5 or more ranks in tumble, you get a +2 bonuses balance check. This is only in the skill description.
Oh, correct. Not all skills have synergy bonuses.
Yep, not all skills have synergy bonuses. There are also feats that will give you bonuses to skills. You never take them. But with one exception, you never take them. But yeah. Yeah, the amount of finickiness there is to this skill system kind of screws with all the parts that are actually kind of good about it. Because again, like, actually being able to cap out a skill and be like, I'm done. Because, as I said beforehand, a 1's not a failure. If I get a +33 to balance, there's not a balance check I'm going to fail unless my DM starts to throw extra modifiers on there for fucking reasons.
Which I'm gonna. You have to add your level.
All right, bye-bye. Level the skill as well.
I just want higher numbers.
All right, moving on. Feats. I unironically like feats in this edition. Like, I do actually like them. They're not good, but I do like them.
Feats are fine. There's just bad options.
It's bad options, and it's like they don't feel like they do what they should. But you actually get a decent amount of them from leveling up. It's not an amazing amount, but it is also what actually made Fighter so fun, is the ability to just pick and choose your feats and a bunch of them in order to try and do something. The problem is the something you were trying to do, the game is almost actively working against you, because feats are so underpowered to the point of like being painful. But yeah, here is an example feat that is zoomed in way too much. Yeah, so here's the general idea. It will have prerequisites. Prerequisites will usually be stats and sometimes other feats. It will give you a benefit. And sometimes it will have special text of one sort or another. This being the most common special text, a fighter may select this as one of his fighter bonus feats. And here's the entire. No, wait. Yeah. Okay. These are the 2 feat tables. I didn't want to take every single feat from this book, and a lot of them are useless anyway. But let's
don't
go
need
over
to cover
these.
every single feat.
Yeah, we don't need to cover every single feat, but let's start at the top. Acrobatic is an example of a lot of feats that are here's a bonus to 2 different skills. They're not good. No.
Skill bonuses, skill bonuses, skill bonuses, skill bonuses.
Yeah.
Armor proficiencies.
Alertness is a feat that notably comes free with familiars. That's about it.
Yeah.
A lot of these are also, in fairness, like some of these are just feats that you will get from random ass class features, so they're not actually good to take as a feat, but they are there for that. Which begs the question of why the class feature didn't just give you the fucking bonus in the first place and actually give you the feat, but that's a different matter entirely. I guess
You can't then also take the feat on top of it.
Yeah.
Because feat bonuses are typically a type bonus.
Yeah.
That goes into bonus stack, and we really got to start talking into.
That's in the DM's guide. We don't have to talk about
it. Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, so augment summoning, because okay. Back to the whole summoning is like one of the most broken things you can do. In and of itself, a veteran player will know this and it will be fine because they will tailor their spell list to a campaign. But a starting
They'll also already have an idea of what everything does, what they're going to summon in a given thing, as opposed to my turn came up. Like, okay, let me look at 15 creature stat block.
Yeah. Or even in the best case scenario, let's say they just really want to summon this one thing. Again, it's like one of the most broken things you can do in the game. It almost doesn't matter what you're summoning, just because action economics is very much a thing. And having a feat that basically highlights, hey, you could make your summons just that much better, is like, okay, you're pointing them at the nuclear button, man.
Do you want your summons to have a bunch of extra health and hit harder?
Yeah, that's necessary. Blind Fight, the quintessential filler feat. Combat casting is you never take.
It will come more when we start talking about actual casting.
Yeah. Combat expertise. This is the most interesting chain that I utterly despise. Mostly because that int 13 prerequisite kind of annoys me. Combat expertise itself. This being the other thing. They had very much the idea of feat chains in this book and developed almost none of them very well.
Yep.
So here's combat expertise, and here's the stuff that has combat expertise as a prerequisite, except for whirlwind attack, which has a bunch of other things, but that's more its own weirdness. And then there's like the maneuver feats, like improved disarm, improved fate, and improved shrimp. Basically, if you don't have these feats, don't do that thing.
You take an attack of opportunity for even trying to do these things.
Yeah. With the exception of Fate, but Fate becomes your standard action. Fate is a way of gaining sneak attack if you can't normally.
Yeah, you can feint as a move action rather than.
Yeah.
But like trying to trip or disarm normally provokes an attack opportunity. At least. Then they give you a bonus.
Yeah.
But you also have to take combat expertise to get them anyways, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
And then whirlwind attack is in there by virtue of having combat expertise as a required feat.
Yeah.
It certainly has more things that aren't. It has more from the dodge chain than combat expertise, but they decided to put under combat expertise.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Yeah, because dodge, mobility, spring attack is actually its own chain. Dodge being one of those ways to constantly ignore your DM. I'm dodging that guy. I'm dodging that guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And mobility, which is taken because it's a prerequisite for spring attack. And spring attack that's taken because you're limited to the base book and have nothing better to take.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the biggest problem with this book is like, the combat maneuvers aren't actually good enough because these basically take the place of your attack for the most part. Trip is kind of okay because it makes it easier for you to hit things and can kind of screw with enemy movement a little bit, but
It's worth noting Pathfinder did these things much better, where they spun off things like trip and disarm and that into maneuvers,
Yeah.
and maneuvers could just replace an attack.
Yeah. These
Like
things.
whole up.
Yeah, I believe these can replace an attack as well. In this, yeah, I believe it still replaces an attack, but like they definitely
also
did that
added
better.
a whole separate AC effectively for maneuvers.
Yes, they made the AC rule. They made the maneuver rules a lot better. Yeah, because the math for this is pretty much
heavily
its own
skewed
separate
towards
thing.
certain things, but they
Yeah.
basically made it so like both strength or dex could apply into maneuver defense.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a lot less formalized in general, and also is kind of one of the more annoying things about this edition is just how overly granular it goes into every combat maneuver. And this even applies to Pathfinder as well. I do much more like the, are you trying to do some are you trying to do a combat maneuver versus something? Okay, just roll versus AC, and if you hit, you do a thing.
It does.
Yeah. It's, or when it comes to some like actual like special abilities of one sort or another, it's like, okay, it makes a save based on your DC or whatever. It's a lot more concise and quicker, and doesn't involve like creating an extra little subsystem in order to figure out. And again, since the math of this game is very much attuned to you optimizing, if you're not taking these feats, even if you ignore the attack of opportunity part, your chances are pretty shit at actually getting any of these things to work.
Yeah, I mean, just taking improved trip is a 20% increase to your chance of your trip chance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just by virtue of adding a +4 bonus.
Let's see. Moving on. Combat reflexes.
Additional
Well,
attacks opportunity.
One of the few feats that actually increases your action economy in a weird way. Yeah, because normally you have one attack of opportunity. Combat reflexes lets you get more attack of opportunity.
Let's them scale off your dex.
Yeah. Which, again, matters how much of a dex you have, but after a while you get magic items that increase that, so you get a
Which
decent
is a
amount
bit
of them.
weird that doesn't have like a dex prereq of like 14, where you'd actually get something out of it.
It is a bit weird, but considering the fact that it tends to be a prerequisite for a decent amount of feats later, is in retrospect. I don't think anything in this book has it as a prerequisite now.
No, nothing in base book does, but I think future stuff does.
A lot of future stuff does. Combat. I remember having to take combat reflexes for a great deal of things.
Yep.
But yeah, it's never a bad thing to have, because having the little thing provoke your attack of opportunity, but having to save it for something else is kind of annoying. But when you can actually just make multiple attacks of opportunity, it's less of an issue. But at the same time, it's like, that's kind of a narrow case anyways. Let's see. What else is in this book? Endurance and Die Hard. If you could tell me what that does from memory, I'll be, even though this is written in front of you.
Die Hard lets you do like half actions on while you're in negative.
Yeah.
Endurance is probably a bonus to non-lethal damage. Saves and checks for non-lethal
damage. Because that comes up all the time, and you're totally going to remember you have this feat.
a feat that becomes more useful if your DM is using the Sandstorm or the Frost. Splat books that do not exist at the time this book was released.
Nope. Askew materials. This is one of those feats that is primarily here because Sorcerer gets it.
They get it for free.
Yeah. It should be noted that this basically makes it so you don't have to have a spell component pouch, which is one of the few instances of this game actually streamlining something. Basically, if you own a spell component pouch, you have all of your spell components. It's just assumed you did shopping on the side. Don't fucking worry about it.
You have all your spell components that don't cost
money. Yeah.
Yep.
So all of those flavorful little things that they have for spell components in the spells,
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. You just have them. Don't worry about it.
So sorcerers carry even less.
Sorcerers carry even less. They just have skewed materials. But That is something I actually like and is extremely rare in this edition for it not to like make you go shopping for like bat guano costs like 1 copper. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Oh, you want to cast a fireball? Boop. Sorry, you didn't have your bat guano. Tisk tisk.
Exotic weapon efficiency. Moving on.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. Extra turning.
Good job.
Yeah. Let's see. Great fortitude and in general all of those, which is
bonus saves.
yeah, bonus to saves. You never take these unless you're really fucking desperate for a feat. No, these are not fighter feats, even the fortitude one.
Nope.
Improved counterspell. You can counterspell better. Improved critical. Improved critical is actually something worth talking about. It does take a high base attack bonus, but not much else. This is actually when you're actually trying to make a fighter perform well. This is usually crit fishing is like one of the more primary like feat chains you start to get into, because there is because improved critical, I believe, does it stack with
does stack with Keen, because that might be a 3-0 thing.
That might be a 3-0 thing. I believe they actually take that away.
I think they changed it in 3.5 to no longer allow it stack.
Yeah, it doesn't stack with Keen. Yeah, it used to stack.
In 3.0 it stacked.
So yeah, improved critical doubles the critical range. Basically, every weapon has a critical range. We'll get to that table later.
Typically ranging from a 20, critting on a 20, critting on a 19 or 20, or critting on through 20.
Yeah.
In 3.0, where you could actually stack Keen on a weapon which improved your crit range, and improved crit, which increased your crit range. Basically just doubles your range. So if you have a weapon that's 19 20, you have improved crit, you have a 17 through 20. There was a claw, like a bladed gauntlet in 3.0 that had a 17 to 20 crit range. So if you stacked Keen and improved crit on it, you crit on a 9 or better. This was dumb.
Yes, yes, it was.
Probably part of the reason they got rid of crit stacking.
Yes. But yeah, generally, the idea in this edition was you either take the weapon that has a really high range, or you take a scythe. When it comes to crits.
Yep. You're looking at maximum modify. That's the other thing. They have most weapons that are going to have a higher than a 20 crit are only going to do double damage on crits. But there are weapons like scythes that do ×4 damage on crits, and great axes that do ×3 damage on crits. So there's basically what it boils down to is numbers-wise, greatsword is the best weapon in the game until you have a incredibly high flat bonus where scythes actually beat it out. Just do the ×4, but you need it's an insane amount of flat for scythes to actually beat out just the 19 to 20 crit range and having 2d6, so effectively more flat damage of the weapon on a greatsword.
Let's see. Next is improved initiative.
Gives you +4 initiatives.
It's good. It's probably too good. Actually, that's the issue.
Yes, it was.
When everyone is taking improved crit, no one should be taking improved crit.
Or improved initiative, you mean?
Or improved initiative, yeah. Yeah, +4 initiative is really good. It's actually better for the spellcasters generally than it is for the melee. Especially melee.
Yes, if your spellcasters go before other people, sometimes your fight ends on turn 1.
Yes. Because sometimes
making sure your spellcasters go first, that's all you need to win most fights.
Yep.
And no one is taking improved turning.
No one's taking improved turning. Improved unarmed strike comes free with... This is basically stuff Monk gets for free, and we happen to throw feats in here. And improved grapple. But yeah, deflect arrow, snatch arrow, and stunning fist are basically Monk class features disguised as feat. Yeah.
There's more skills, there's more saves.
Improved grapple. This is the edition particularly that is infamous for grappling being a mess. More skills, more saves.
Leadership is a interesting feat.
Oh yes, leadership.
Depending on how much your DM wants to just slap you and say no.
Yeah, this is pretty much the most DM fiat vetoed feat in the game. Here,
you want another class following?
Yeah, you attract a loyal companions and devoted followers, subordinate to assist you. Your DM has information on what sort of cohort and followers you can recruit. By that I mean the DM is usually lazy and lets you do whatever you want. The rules for this are actually in the DM's guide. But basically,
with experienced players, it would often be Yeah, you can have leadership. Don't make me slap you.
Yeah, because basically you have a follow. You can have a bunch of small minions, but you also have one cohort who happens to be your level -2. This is a feat that gives you another character.
Just a full-blown character at 2 levels lower. The cohorts or the followers end up being like level 1, level 2, level 3 NPC classes. It's cool if you're making like a base or something and want a feat to support it. But it is very much a feat where your GM needs to be paying attention to be like, no, you can't just make fucking level 16 wizard to follow you around. Stop.
Yeah. It should be notable that is having followers was much more of a thing in previous editions of this game in general, and was actually the primary primarily what charisma did. It determined actually how many followers you actually had walking around with you. Unlike in this edition, where charisma determines some social skills, and
Charisma does also factor into leadership. It determines the amount of followers you get.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
And possibly also level cap for your cohort.
Yeah, if you have the leadership feat, you do not want to tank charisma. As a matter of fact, you generally want to be a primary charisma character.
Are you a bard or a sorcerer?
Yeah. Martial weapon proficiency, you should never be taking this. It's not worth a feat.
Mounted combat.
Yeah, there are certainly mounted combat feats.
Wasn't well supported in 3.5 if I recall correctly.
No,
or at least it had a bunch of feats, just didn't work well mechanically in 3.5.
It didn't work
well.
It
is a thing that Pathfinder did a lot better for making. Like your mount just used your move.
Yeah, this need a lot of cleanup in this edition. That's as much as anything, like, kind of just.
Oh no, I was wrong. Natural spell is just a base.
Oh,
I was wrong. Natural spell
is in this book. Okay, yes, this book is just fucking broken. There's
Did Druids become stupider at level 6? No, they had that all the time. Don't care about physical stats and lose nothing.
Yep. But yeah, mounted combat in general also has the fatal flaw of, you know, this game is designed for dungeon crawls, right? Are you taking a horse into a fucking dungeon?
I mean, paladins still get to summon a mount. At least they didn't have cavalier as a base class or a early class, like Pathfinder did. But at least Pathfinder supported it.
Yeah,
better.
Point blank shot, and much more importantly, the fucking range tree, which is like the only good tree in this goddamn book, I think, when it comes to combat.
The range tree, one of the best combat trees.
Yeah. So point blank shot, +1 to attack and damage within 30 feet.
Mainly for rapid shot.
Yeah, mainly for rapid shot. Like, the stuff that comes before it is not generally bad. You don't generally need far shot or precise shot. Precise shot's not actually bad, so you generally.
Well, you want precise shot.
Yeah, you want precise shot because anything that's but yeah, rapid shot, which is you get to make extra attacks with your bow, and then let's see, many shot you get to make extra attacks. With your bow.
Rapid shot is just an extra attack. Many shot is your first attack just fires 2 arrows.
Yep.
So if you hit, it does damage twice.
And yeah,
or more. I think it goes up as you get a higher level. And then eventually they put like greater rapid shot in there for an extra rapid shot on top of all of it. And like bow builds basically do more attacks than dual wielder. It's dumb.
It's dumb, even more so accounting for the fact that, okay, you think dual wielders are going to do a bunch of attacks. That's only if they start next to people. That being the other problem.
This is doing it every round as long as your target's within hundreds of feet.
Yeah. All right, power attack. Oh god, that was the thing.
Lose a point of attack to do 2 points of damage.
3 points of damage if you were... Yeah.
If you're two-handed. Up to the max of your base attack bonus. You can give up your entire base attack bonus if you want.
So basically, as we've kind of alluded to with the action economy of this edition, and it's what really kneecaps, especially melee, in order to do all of your attacks, you have to basically do nothing else on your turn.
You have to use a full attack action.
Yes.
Which is a full round action. You do nothing else.
As opposed to a spellcaster, which in order to make their spell work, they're generally just using a standard action.
There are some exceptions to this, mainly sorcerers using metamagic, which inherently takes a full round. Well, it inherently takes a round and not a full round because that's a distinction required for spells.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one of the few times concentration really comes up besides trying to cast spells on people who are hugging you.
And this is actually where power attack can actually kind of help, in the sense that in a round where you have to move an attack, because fighters' attack bonus, if you've rigged it into the fucking heavens, they can trade off a decent amount of that bonus and still pretty much hit. Yeah. It's not enough, but it at least helps.
And then you have like Cleave and Great Cleave, which are fine at low levels, but then taper off real quick because the chance of you actually knocking things out every round to get the bonus attacks is not there.
Yeah, the problem is your attack damage does not scale well enough to take out fodder as the game goes on.
Like at low level, fighting goblins, you can drop one of those in one attack, swing into another one. That's fine. Eventually, you're fighting single enemies or things that have so much hit points, there's no way in hell you're blowing through them.
Yeah, because in order to make the fodder, actually so that's the other problem. Fodder, because of the scaling math of this game, I can't just keep throwing goblins at you.
Yep.
I have to actually start replacing it with higher level minions, which means not only do their number scale, so the math doesn't like make any bonuses pointless, like you'll miss on a 1. Their hit points necessarily scale because everything is built like a character in the monster manual, so everything still has the same scaling hit points. It's not going to stay around the same lower level of hit points, which is good because it will instantly disintegrate upon any type of caster AoE hitting them if it did. But at the same time, it means, fighters actually kind of have to focus down targets with multiple attacks in order to kill minions.
Yeah, because you're fighting something at like 15 challenge rating as a mook, or like a high level mook. It still has, 20 hit dice and a +4 con. It has 80 hit dice for virtue of existing before you actually determine what those hit dice are.
Yeah.
It was a nice thing that 4th edition did, where they added minions that were just, here's an enemy that has 1 hit point.
Yeah.
If you hit it, it dies. If it fails a save, it dies.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it has all the same like attack bonuses a regular enemy would have. It's just easy to kill, and you can throw a bunch into combat, so a fighter can blow through 4 things.
Yeah. Now, granted, that is more of a workaround than anything. But
it works.
Yeah.
It's a nice workaround.
Yeah. It gets solved pretty much with bounded accuracy in 5th edition, because I can just keep throwing goblins at you until fucking.
Yeah, a goblin with a 15 AC does get easier to hit as you level up, but not you only hit it or you only fail to hit it on 1s like number scaling goes in 3.5.
Yeah. Let's see. Quick draw.
And because your AC doesn't go crazy, a goblin with a +3 can hit you.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but it can still happen.
Let's see. Quick draw. I remember taking this feat, but it doesn't seem to have a tree in this book. I think
it lets you draw a weapon as a free action.
Yeah. Let's see.
Quick draw is great when Book of 9 Swords got released.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah.
But
is Book of 9 Swords one of those books that needs to have like lightning and like horses whinnying in the background?
But Book of 9 Swords is not base, so we will not discuss it.
Okay.
It is the splat book that makes martials good.
Yeah, it is core, but we'll discuss it way later. Like, it's also towards the end of the edition. That's the other thing. Let's see. We will probably move on to different projects before we get to it. Basically,
that's right. Base Book of 9 Swords was actual 3.5, wasn't it?
It is 3.5. Yeah.
I'm just thinking it was because the Pathfinder version wasn't. It was Dreamsguard.
Yeah. The Pathfinder version.
Book of 9 Swords makes martials good.
Yes. Let's see.
Not wizard good, but good.
Let's all make fun of rapid reload.
Hey, it's a feat that works for crossbows. Okay, moving right along.
Run. You run 5 times your normal movie. Okay, shield proficiencies, which you'll never take. Okay, skill focus. Skill focus is actually good.
+3 to a skill.
+3 to skill, but I believe actually let me double check. It might be shit in this edition.
It's +3 to a skill. Pathfinder had boosting skill.
Okay, yeah, this one is just +3 to a skill. Generally,
correct. This Pathfinder had all the feats we've gone over there, like +2 to a skill. Those become +4 when you have 10 points in it.
Yeah.
Same thing with skill focus. +3 becomes +6. But base D&D, they never increase.
No. Occasionally you'd actually get a use for skill focus, and sometimes there was a prerequisite for one thing or another. sometimes
Usually
for
the
siege
reason you take it
classes.
is the prerequisite for like a prestige.
Yeah, but sometimes powering up a skill because of random ass class feature was actually important. So like this actually became more important as more stuff got released in this book. It's not exactly amazing. The best thing you could do is like as a caster, you could get skill focus and
It's the most
concentration.
important feat for where they fucking word
Oh,
casters.
the true name.
That
Yeah,
still is bad
yes.
because the DC's double scale,
Yes,
making the class useless.
Yeah,
Or true namers. That's what it was.
True namers. Yeah. Let's see. Spell focus is good. Greater spell focus is
good.
also good.
Is also good.
Yeah. So
you pick a school of magic, you increase your DCs in it. This is also a prerequisite for Archmage, which every wizard is going to go into.
Yep.
So you take it.
Yeah. The one thing we didn't talk about with wizards. Wizards specialize in schools of magic. We'll go over those in the actual section on magic, anyways. In and of itself, that's really where we're going to go over all the casters.
Basics, evocation, necromancy, conjuration.
Yeah. But in any case, you generally anyways tend to focus on one school as a wizard, or yeah, especially as a wizard. Let's see. Spell mastery. Did they get this for free? I don't think
not
they
for
did.
free.
No, okay.
No, they have to take it.
Why would they?
But it lets you pick a handful of spells and you can prepare those for your spell book.
Yeah, if you think your DM is going to be especially mean,
spell penetration and greater spell penetration also feats that wizards take.
Yeah, so spell resistance is very much a thing in this edition, and this is basically the arms race of trying to get over spell resistance before spell resistance makes it so spells don't work, and therefore rendering your class useless.
Enemies will have a SR rating or a spell resistance rating, and when you cast a spell on an enemy that has spell resistance, you roll against it, and if you succeed, your spell continues to work. If you fail, your spell just immediately fizzles. Does nothing.
Yep. Toughness. We make fun of this feat a lot. It's
plus 3 hit points.
Yeah,
period.
It is. It's plus 3 hit points. It is probably the worst feat in the game.
5e does it better. Pathfinder did it better, where it's scaled.
Yes, they still suck, but they suck less.
Here it's just bad.
Yep. Though you can't take it multiple
5e made
times.
a background feat, so you get it easily.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, it did.
Oh yeah, 5e is good.
You'll probably take it as fighter, because what the fuck else are you doing with all your fighter feats? At least in baseball.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing, but yeah, it's at least it's a pretty viable option in 5e.
Yeah.
The
also stuff.
Yeah, also notable. You can take it multiple times. There are feats you can take multiple times, and their effects stack. There are other feats like spell focus where you can take it multiple times, their effects don't stack, but you can choose a different.
You choose a different school.
School basically. Let's see. 2-weapon fighting.
Reduce the penalties for 2-weapon fighting. Gain an AC bonus. Get extra attacks.
Yeah, so if you're trying to 2-weapon fighting without 2-weapon fighting, don't. And you might actually notice that, or how the dex you need for that is 15, then 17, then fucking 19.
19, correct.
If you are not being primarily...
granted, you also need a minimum level of 11 before you get greater 2-weapon fighting, so you could easily hit dex, even if you weren't focused.
You can. It gets weird because, like...
But why are you doing this if you're not focusing dex?
Yeah, why are you doing this if you're not focusing dex? But it is also, like, if you want to be a 2-weapon fighter and not focus dex, too bad. You cannot be strength-based and do this.
Well, I said you can. You just have to make it up with magic.
Yeah, magic items and feats get weird, though. Granted, this also comes back to the mean DM that decides to sunder your magic items and suddenly you no longer know how to 2-weapon fight.
I mean, even if you're doing like a rogue, you're doing a strength-based rogue for some reason, you're getting into greater 2-weapon fighting even later than a fighter would, so you have even more time to get magic items.
Yeah, true enough.
Because you're not hitting that base attack 11 until, like, what, level 15? 14, 15?
Somewhere around there, yeah. Base attack 11 would be 15, yes.
15, yeah.
All right. Oh, yes.
Weapon finesse. Required for fighting with dex.
Yeah, weapon finesse. Here's your feat tax for doing something that should be a primary. Oh, by the way, you can't take this as level 1 as a rogue.
Yep. Correct.
Because it requires a base attack bonus of 1.
Not get to level 3.
Yep. Good luck hitting things before level 3.
Well, you decided to take weapon focus for a +1 hit.
Yep.
And then there's other feats that are only available to fighters.
Yeah.
They consist of a +2 damage, a +2 to attack instead of a +1, and a +4 damage.
Yeah, those don't stack with each other. It basically goes from a +1 to a +2 and a +2 to a +4.
It's also worth noting to get that +2 instead of a +1 requires level 8, and to get that +4 damage opposed to +2 requires level 12.
This is the primary feat tree with fighter, and oh god, does it suck. This is what they expected Fire to do in this book.
Yeah. I mean, you'll take them because you have the feats.
You will. But
here's some crafting feats. These will break the game.
they're
Although 3-5
less-
crafting requires XP, so
yeah, they are less broken in this than they are in Pathfinder, because Pathfinder did away with XP costs on everything.
Yeah.
I actually like that, but it is one of the few things that was actually keeping the item creation feats in check.
Yeah.
Meta-magic
instead you
feat.
just have to deal with half cost and time.
Yep. Meta-magic feats. Results vary.
They'll do stuff.
So when you memorize a spell into a spell slot, you can also apply a meta-magic feat. It will apply an extra effect at the cost of it taking up a higher level spell slot.
So like a maximized fireball, which is a 3-level increase, will just max out all the dice. But it requires a level 7 slot, or a level 6 slot instead of level 3.
Yes.
A quicken spell casts as a free action, but uses 4 levels higher. So quicken fireball casts level 7. Sorcerers, if they use meta magic, always cast as a round or a full round action. So it uses their entire turn.
Yeah.
To cast a meta magic spell, with the exception of quicken.
Yes. Is the irony that in later editions, meta magic is exclusively the domain of sorcerers.
Yeah, meta magic is the ability sorcerers have in 3.5.
Whereas in this edition, they're actually bad at it, and wizards get bonus meta magic feats.
Yep, correct.
As you can kind of imagine, meta magic feats vary wildly in usefulness. Generally, you're never taking like still or silent, because you're adding a level to your spellcasting to do basically nothing. If somebody is doing something with widen, I am very suspicious, and they're probably breaking the game with some nonsense.
Well, if there's anything wide, they're probably doing a locate city bomb. Which requires stuff we don't have access to in just base books. It also requires, I think it's one of the ones that actually uses Frostburn.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what you need the snow magic from. We'll talk about really dumb spells later.
Yes,
or
we
spell
will.
combos later.
Maximize and Quicken are pretty much the most self-evident of how you actually use these.
Quicken lets you cast more spells in a turn. Maximize and Empower are
Empower, yeah.
roughly equivalent. Maximize is +3 levels. Empower is +2. Empower increases your numbers by 50%.
Yeah.
Specifically, variable numbers. If you use Maximize and Empower together, which you can, you still have to roll dice to figure out how much the 50% is.
Yes, you're taking the maximize number, then rolling dice and having them in order to figure out the extra from Empower.
I think it's specifically you actually take the maximized dice, then you basically I can't remember if Empower doubled the damage or directly 50% damage or 50% dice. Either way, they can be done together, but they interact weird. It doesn't just mean a fireball does 90.
Yeah. Let's see. All variable numeric power.
I thought that was a distinction they made in like Pathfinder and not.
Well, if they were intelligent, they actually told us in this book under one of the two feats how they interact with each other. Okay, no, they didn't. I have no fucking idea. Here it is. Never mind. Never mind the bad layouts of this book. It's on the next page. An empowered maximize spell gains the separate benefits of each feat. Maximize result plus 1/2 of the normally rolled result.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you still roll the regular result and then take half of it and add it again for Empower.
Okay, at least they explained their shit somewhere.
Yeah. Like, I remember them stacking, but it was weird when you stacked them. She still had to rolling dice to get the empowered part.
Yep. All right. We are at kind of our stop time and a little bit past it, as a matter of fact, and still actually have a decent amount to go.
Alignment doesn't matter. Moving on. We can skip this chapter. It doesn't matter.
I do have things to rant about, but that's not the point. We still have a decent amount to go, including spells.
My point still stands.
Yep.
Also, no, you're wrong. This is the one edition where alignment matters. There's
For
way
two
too much
classes.
mechanic. No, and a bunch of spells.
I was gonna say actually
And-
more class than just 2.
And a bunch of spells, and planes
More
of
than that,
existence, and fucking...
Barbarians have to be freaking chaotic. Paladins have to be lawful. Druids have to have a degree of neutral to them.
Bards...
Monks have to be
Bards don't care.
lawful.
Monks have to be lawful.
Just a second, let me double check. No, bards cannot be lawful.
Bards can't. Sure,
No.
bards can't be lawful.
Never trust a
Really?
bard.
I'm not kidding when I say this edition cares more about alignments than everything
It
past it.
I
It
didn't
shouldn't,
remember that
but-
one.
Druids have to be some degree of neutral.
Yes,
yeah.
Druids have to be some degree. Hey, at least when I was running a game in 3.5 and I ignored alignments entirely, I give a reason. That was mostly gods are above your alignment system. Get fucked.
Monks have to be lawful. Yeah.
I mean, the first big campaign we did, which was started in 3.5, the main villain was a lawful good angel who was actively trying to exterminate.
I mean that's fine. That makes sense. An angel's morality doesn't need to match with a human's morality.
Who came from the god of angels, who was trying to actively annihilate everyone in the area. Because the morality of gods, the morality mortals use does not apply to gods.
Yeah. Makes perfect sense to me.
Rangers and rogues can be any alignment. I'm pretty sure sorcerer and rogues can be any alignment. Yeah, okay. But yeah, this is a good place to pause at the very least.
Yep.
Because
All
we have
this
a
makes
decent
me
amount
want
to
to
go.
after we're done doing all this, do a weird
Oh,
stream
no.
where we just get together the people who played big campaigns and talk about big campaigns.
That would be an interesting thing, yeah. God, we're trying to talk about campaigns from memory at that point.
Greg HP brain case over here.
Yeah. But any case, we will pause this.
Try and
and pick it
remember
up.
god names.
Oh god, if you can find that list. Campaign notes should technically exist. I think those are actually in a digital document. At least for some.
Well, that's
not
during
for,
the
not for the
campaign
first
they weren't.
campaign.
Not for the
Yeah.
first one.
No, not
Second
for the
one
first
later, yeah, but the two of the elemental gods got renamed, and then also besides Gordog, which is entirely a joke pulled from World of Warcraft.
Yes.
Both the Earth God and the Wind God had names at this point. Those just lost to time. They're, as we talked about earlier, on a physical piece of paper. Because 2023 or 2003 was not the big on making everything digital.
Fun fact: phones in 2003 did not do anywhere near what they fucking do now.
We're still flip phones.
Yeah.
Or little phones that had Snake on them.
An
Now we have
indestructible,
complex phones.
indestructible
Also
Nokia
have
phone.
Snake on them.
Yeah. But yeah, we will pause here and pick this up next week. Till then, I'm Vincent.
I've been the Krampus.
I've been Shiv.
I've been Hunter Green.
And I'm Vincent. And remember, everyone, hindsight's 20/20.